to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And take that away.
You know, that's my take. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
That's right. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. That's right. Episode 200. 200. I'm as surprised as anyone. So here's the treat for y'all. This is going to be a special episode. I'm going to have both my former co-hosts on. But for people that were important to the story of Protonic Reversal, it's Brenna Betts and Josh Davis. So I'm going to talk to both of them. Talk to them about their remembrances of the show, things along those lines. I'm going to do something special at the end. So there's no, Dave Grohl's not coming on. There's going to be no marquee value necessarily to this show, but it's important to me to do it. I think it should be a pretty good time. So thank you once again, ProtonicReversal.com for the archives, patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. I promise the next one's going to be less indulgent. I don't know, indulgent's the right word, but anyway, thank you very much. I don't take it lightly. Hey, there we are. Cool.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
There's a Savvy Fab song playing in the background that I don't want to be playing right now, though, so let me turn that off.
Well, I have there's a lot of chipmunk activity going on behind me, so
chipmunk activity. Oh.
We are very, very active right now.
It's a classic Brenna Betts situation. High level of chipmunk activity.
Yeah, it's actually kind of annoying, but I'm guessing it's going to be a big winter in there. I don't know what the heck they're doing. They're chirping. It's weird.
They're having a meeting to convene what the best course of action is going to be.
I think they're discussing their evacuation plan or something.
Exactly. There's probably a lot of heated discussion going on in chipmonkese.
But fire, California fire jokes.
This is great because this is just like how the show used to be, just like utter random what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
Of course, for those uninitiated, this we're talking to the one and only Brenna Betts, former co-host of this very show, Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. And it's been a while. It was, I think, episode 7, I think, was the first one that you were on. And I had this written down, but then I started dicking around with my audio settings. So it is just like the old days.
I mean, I don't know anything different.
I was going to say, I've had it pretty, it's hilarious because I've had it pretty dialed in, especially for the past 100 episodes or so. And, whatever. This is for old time's sake, I guess. I guess that's a good place to start as any. I've kind of I've modified my password 1,418 days ago. Wow. Okay. That's very specific.
It is very specific. What is that like? That's 3 years?
3 years ago?
Almost.
Yeah, so I kept some notes in the thing that I keep notes in, and was bitching at me to do two-factor authentication and all that stuff. So yeah, typical old school Protonic Reversal bullshit. But yeah, so I did the first 6 episodes solo, and you were on episode 7, and then your last episode was 88. So you did a total of 81 episodes. I actually figured this out ahead of time. I'm the guy that does research.
Wait, so that's just under 2 years. Yeah.
Which makes sense because, of course, for those not familiar with the show and the ensuing chaos that is this, I guess I should mention this is the 200th episode. I feel like did you ever see The Office where they throw the birthday party and the banner says "It is your birthday"? That's what I feel like this is. It is the 200th episode.
That's such a weird, like, subtle, awkward. Usually it's like, happy birthday. I mean, you could look at that and be like, that's normal.
Right.
But it's weird.
It is your birthday. So it is the 200th episode of Protonic Reversal. And it's a pleasure to be. So it's funny to me that it is the 200th episode, and that is about the level of enthusiasm that I have for it. But not because I'm not excited about the show or happy about its history or anything along those lines, just because the world is nuts and manages to become more and more nuts every single day.
To put it lightly, yes, the world has really gone to an ultimate level of shit.
And the fact that I continue to do this almost objectively absurd thing, and that it has found an audience of sorts of what it is, and gives some solace to people in these crazy times is amazing. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, well, first, it's been forever since we've talked, so I guess we can start with that.
Well, I reached out too.
Right, and it reminded me of just how much the show has changed and how much it started. Now, to be clear, the show started as a live show in the morning. We were a morning show, Brenna. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And the Mission is a weird place in the morning.
It's loud in different ways that it is in the afternoons and especially evenings. But yeah, weird place. You can still smell last night's feces on the street. It's there's activity that's like normal, but it seems abnormal because it's the Mission. Yeah, everything looks a little bit suspicious for some reason, even perfectly mundane activities.
Yeah, my bike wheel got stolen while I was in the show one time. I remember that was like locations, and I came out and I was like, shoot, I don't have a wheel.
It blows my mind too that, well, first of all, I've always prided myself on doing the show live. Doubly funny since we're pre-recording this, but I've always prided myself on that because I think it makes for a different vibe. It makes for a different type of show. Like the fact that there's certainly been some working without a net moments over the years. And people maybe say something that they should not have said.
Yeah, I've definitely done that at least once. I remember a very traumatizing experience that I did that.
I remember it as well because you like said the thing that you said, and then like a quarter second later you're like, oh, like it just dawned on you like I should not have just said the thing that I just said. I
completely shut down after that. Yeah. I was like not speaking for the rest of the show.
Yeah, you got real quiet about it, But, I mean, for the most part, I think the extemporaneous, seeming nature of the show was well served for the format. I'm not going to lie. I hate getting up early. And I hate having to do anything. I just don't like getting up early at all, period.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was the topic of conversation.
like almost all the time. And which is doubly conjoined by the fact that I hate people bitching about how hard it is to do a radio show. Like, I hate it. Like, it's a personal pet peeve to be like, oh, it's so hard to come in and talk in these microphones. No, it isn't, man. Digging ditches is hard. Like, really? It's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like, that would be an even more invalid statement, but I do remember a lot of like coming into frustration and then everything coming together and being like, whoo, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to talk, and that was my purpose, to help you deal with shit that you're dealing with. And then, oh wait,
Yeah.
I can curse, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the internet. You can curse.
I shouldn't though, but yeah, I do remember a lot of flustered, getting things ready really quickly, right before, because there was like,
moments before air. Yeah, sometimes
there was always something that was unexpected, which is actually kind of really just how life works in almost every situation. I feel like just all of a sudden you're like, bam, okay, we're dealing with this. Let's get it done. Now we have to get to the real business.
I feel like the station that we started on, it was especially noticeable because there was one specific show in general the night before that would we'll go and say not be the most diligent in their cleanup process. And it's like really there's marijuana seeds in the board right now. Okay. And
actually, I remember you debating, like, leaving and doing your own thing, and kind of that being a longer process. And I was like, you're always frustrated. Like, just.
I was screaming about this, that, and the other. Like, I was, it blew my mind that, like, something where everything is just set up and should be ready to go. And it just wasn't. There was always something that was just like, oh, this is out of phase suddenly for no reason, or like this thing isn't working, or that thing isn't working. So it's amazing that with that like chaos theory element of it, like the shows for the most part like went pretty well. I mean, like I feel good about all those episodes. I feel like for myself early on, when you joined up is kind of when it got good, when it started getting good. The first time it got around, the first level of getting good. And part of that's just because it's a daunting thing to do a live radio show, and doubly so when you're doing it on your own. So the fact that you were there and you were someone that you would come up with stuff that, I've said this before, I can't remember if I've actually told you this or not. Maybe I have. But I'm a guy that I can generally tell what somebody is going to say or some derivation of it, right? Like it's something, have I told you this? I can't remember. For better or for worse, right? And not like sometimes I can't be wrong, but you would come up with some of the most just befuddling, puzzling things that it immediately, like when I would be in this vibe of like, just like, spinning the wheel and the sparks come out and like, everything's flying around, and it was just me like, what? Like it would just full stop for me. And then like, it was awesome because then it like reset me for being in the mindset of the show. And I always appreciated your contributions to it because, again, as a co-host, you were one of the only people I've never been able to like figure out. Not that I haven't like figured you out or anything or like whatever, but like your contributions
are better. Well, that's nice. That's a positive.
Your contributions were they weren't necessarily the loudest, but they were very important to the show and keeping the show on track, especially in those early days. And I think that's I want to say maybe I told you about that on the last show. I can't remember.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
That's good.
Yeah, you did say that. We talked a bit, I think, after the show about your difficulty doing it on your own as well, because we're all individually in our own head.
Yeah. Well, and I specifically remember an episode of the show where it was the first time that I just felt it wasn't good. And this is before you joined up. And I was, it was the Red Fang Big Business show.
Oh yeah, that's where Evan was like, why don't you have her on your show? And
yeah, 'cause I was bitching to him about it.
You were complaining. He told me, well, it's interesting too, because he like randomly had an extra ticket, or you gave him a ticket or something, and he posted on Facebook.
It was a ticket giveaway, actually, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, it was some like thing.
Yeah.
He posted on Facebook, and I just happened to be the first person that responded, and other people had also responded after me because I texted him directly, but people commented on Facebook, and then I remember that I think I've gone over this before, but I'm not sure. But one of my my staff members, because I was managing at the time, hurt themselves. I think they either hurt themselves or they were sick and called in. But I think someone hurt themselves, and they had to go home. And I ended up working like a crazy 12-hour day or something. And so I was like, today sucks. And then that ticket came through, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes my day so much better. And then Evan, we were hanging out, and I had been drinking whiskey, which I don't do very often now, but it definitely is like a next level firewater thing. And Evan and I think I was just being extra entertaining because I had had such a bad day, and I was trying to like pull myself out of it, which is a technique I could employ a little bit more nowadays. I've gotten older, so I don't like pull myself out of things as easily as it happens as we age. But I remember that from my end being like Evan being like, Conan, why don't you like have her on your show or something that was funny, because to him it made sense because he knew me better than
and I think that's fucking nothing ever changes. I'm getting messages something about the show right now. And I had Brian Giles of Red Fang on like for the episode right before you, and that was where I was sort of like, okay, like this is, we're kind of getting there. But I felt it needed something, and it needed something that where I wasn't doing everything, but also where at the time I felt like the resting fury of Conan Neutron maybe it wasn't something that people were looking for too.
Resting fury. That's an interesting description.
That's kind of where I felt like I was at the time, and half of that was this frustration of like things that should be working not working. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, oh, this should work, and it does not.
You're a very thorough person too, and like to be around other people that are not as thorough, I can see that being.
We'll charitably say not as thorough. Yes.
I mean, I don't have the same knowledge that you do of the way things should be in that situation. So it's, for me, I don't understand. And it's interesting as I can apply this to my personal life now in thinking about how things bother me and other people are not bothered. But to me, I was like, Conan is upset. How do I make this better? I don't know how to help because I literally know nothing about all this audio stuff and computer things and stuff that you do for a living. And clearly other people don't value in the same manner. And I
think a lot of the stuff I do isn't valued in the same manner, frankly, but I get the gist of what you're saying.
Inherent to your personality.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
remember we went
I've got that big raccoon energy, you know.
Big raccoon energy. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Well, because they have an attitude, they're tenacious, but they're lovable. They're tenacious, but also they got a bit of an attitude, and they're going to get in that trash.
Yeah, and they also wash all their food before they.
Yeah. They're very meticulous in their way. They got a code, raccoons.
Yeah. A group of raccoons broke into my house when I lived in Florida and like raided everything, and I really thought that it was my drunk roommates. I was like, man, they really were on one tonight because it was around 2 a.m. I thought they were coming home from the bar, and I was like, this is just reckless. I'm going to go back to sleep. And then I got up in the morning, and I was like everything in the fridge had been pulled out, and all the trash and like the back door was open, like everything had been pulled out of the cupboards. I was like, man, this is wild. I was like, oh,
some rager.
There's some very motivated raccoons. I was just gonna say, it reminded me of going to New York and having that launch.
Oh, when we launched Radio Nope. Yeah, of course. That's hard. That's right. That was the beginning of the station.
Yeah.
And we both went on live from the barrage, and it was incredibly chaotic, more so than normal even.
Very stressful for me, and I remember listening to that little bits on the airplane, and it made me feel like I am like the most annoying, naggy mom personality ever. Because they were all like ganging up on you, and I was like, you guys, stop. You have to let people talk. Wait your turn to talk. And I was a little bit tipsy at that point because it was also my birthday, I think. And
and that's I think to be fair, I think most people were pretty tipsy for that show. But and that was the launch. That was the launch of Radio Nope. Was that show, which is practically unlistenable.
It was a lot of like just being mean to each other, which now I understand that that's how men interact with each other, and I'm like,
it's how some men interact with each other.
Yeah, I see it very commonly. It's not all men, but I definitely have seen that like
# not all men.
I'm not trying to be sexist, but I've like observed that kind of like picking on each other where I'm like, damn, if my gal friends did that to me, I would be like, you're a bitch. I don't want to be your friend.
It's very much it's kind of a New Yorkie. And look, check out my New Yorkie. It's delightful.
So cute and tiny.
So well behaved. It's kind of a New York style of humor, for sure. I associate it more with New York. Let's put it that way. And they do what they do really well, and I really respect it. It was a lot, and I do remember that wasn't a very enjoyable experience, frankly, for me. I've since been back on, and I love those guys. I think they run a great show, and I think it's actually gotten better, way better, and far less chaotic, and their audience has grown because of it. But yeah, that was. But the whole point for Radio Nope in the first place is I was just sick of the shenanigans and the BS, and I was like, what if we took the things? I think I applied that. I think it's a Harley Davidson thing. It's hard to fly with the eagles when you're riding with turkeys.
Wow, that's a sick burn.
And I don't feel that way about everyone at the old station at all. In fact, I thought there were some shows were like rather good, but I mean, let's be clear. So yeah, that's how Radio Nope ended up coming to be, and it was sort of like, well, why don't we all get together and do this? And I feel like Protonic Reversal got better when it was on Radio Nope. Once I was out of that situation, and I say that as some of the setups were incredibly ramshackle and falling apart at the seams in a different way, a new and exciting way. But I feel like we made a lot of really good episodes. I was just for the hell of it, like looking back at some of them, and I was like, well, yeah, those were good episodes. Those were really cool. And it's not that we didn't do some other great episodes at the old station as well, but I mean, there's some good stuff there, man. It's like this was good radio / podcasting. Did you have any episodes that you particularly liked or remember after these many years?
I mean, it's been 4 years. So
it's been a while.
It's there's a blur, and I still like randomly will be like, oh yeah, I interviewed so and so on this radio
David
show.
Yao, Steve Albini.
Yeah, and like people will be like, radio show what?
Yeah. Huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, and now I will get to your questions a little off topic, but I've been listening to podcasts more because I'm unemployed. And
turns out a lot of people are doing that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not by choice. Trust me, I legally cannot do my job and my business closed because I'm a massage therapist, and disease and COVID don't mix well with massage. And I live in California. That's important to note as well. We have a big situation here in many ways. Anyways, I've been listening to podcasts a lot on a recent road trip I went on, and I was like, wow, this is really cool to like hear a human voice and feel connected to them, and like not even in just like a specific, like my boyfriend's cousin does a really cool podcast about American folk music in Appalachia, and he does like storytelling with that, and so there's not like banter. It's him. He does.
You know what your Appalachian podcast could use? More banter.
Yeah, no, it's really well done. Not to plug, but it's called American Songcatcher. He does like the history of different blues and folk musicians.
Sure, yeah.
Like Mississippi John Hurt and stuff like that scene. And it's storytelling. Like he's telling their life story, which it should not include too much fun comments or random things, but I've been listening to
awooga.
Yeah, no, that would be weird and inappropriate when considering, blind Willie Johnson or whatever,
Here comes the ranch cannon,
Yeah. But when I was on my road trip and listening to people banter, I listened to a couple podcasts that are done by comedians. My Favorite Murder is one that's like, it's a true crime story, but they're comedians, so there is some kind of like banter with the two, and like their stories aren't funny, but they do include some funny things.
Yeah,
and
situationally hilarious, maybe.
Yeah, and they connect it with how like they, how that affects them personally and what they think and their life and stuff, and I felt like I knew them after listening to it for hours. And driving, and I had, and I decided I couldn't do true crime after dark, but I also listened to like a comedian podcast that's like wacky news, things you'd never know. And so with the music side of this podcast situation, I feel like people, they get to know you just through listening to you talk about something that you love. And also there's, when there's two people, there's personal back and forth or banter comments of your life that's going on. And I really like that about our interviews with the musicians. I think, to answer your question, one of my favorite things was not just hearing the crazy stories that musicians have from tour, but also getting to know what their personal views about the world were, and like some pretty deep topics that I wouldn't have necessarily gotten to in a venue atmosphere if you were backstage, unless you have a significant amount of time set. Most of the time when you get to interact with musicians, it's like in a bar or with crowded.
You're like 5 minutes before like somebody like interrupts you or somebody like orders a beer or something where
and there's like sweaty people everywhere, or just like it's not as like intimate. It can be intimate in a stage setting, but you don't get to know much about what they think or who they are, and that I really enjoyed, because you're more like musically minded and technical in the way things are done, and you could bring those questions in. I am just a more like philosophical or like big thinking person about society, and I find that stuff interesting, so I talk to people about it all the time, and getting to talk to people, musicians or different people in all walks of life is really interesting, and it brings like a level of humanity to someone who, if you love their music and you're a fan, you may not ever see that side of them.
Yeah, and there's some people like, Falco from Future of the Left and Steve Albini, you could just like talk to him about whatever. Like it doesn't matter, and it's going to be interesting and cool. And like I felt like the early Protonic like really excelled in that. And a lot of that, I don't want to short sell your involvement on it, because a lot of that had to do with like, again, as I mentioned, you would come up with stuff that I would never dream of asking myself. And it was cool because I think we worked well off each other. It was a collaborative situation, as it should be.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Thank you. That's
I mean, it ought to be that way, right? But and that was the case. I felt like even when it was, on the phone or Skype or in person too. Like I felt like that there was it was a different vibe,
Yeah, and I really appreciate getting to know the musicians in a different way, but also hearing their crazy stories. And then sometimes like sometimes I'm really good at kind of tying in hidden things, I guess. That's probably an intuition thing that is somehow related to now my career path, but I've always kind of like sat around in house parties and had these conversations that went super deep. And some of the stories that people shared, I can't remember specific ones or like their band specifically. I remember one gentleman who was really cool and had really crazy stories that worked on an oil rig. I can't remember his name.
Jason Miles.
Yeah, he had some.
See, that's where I come in here. So I'm like, it's that. It was
yes,
this episode.
I know. I'm like terrible at those details.
I was telling somebody earlier, I can't remember my driver's license number, but I could remember what bands played at a show I went to 8 years ago, and it's like, not useful, but
well. In this
potentially
area
useful. Yeah, in that scenario it was. Yeah, exactly. But that was Jason Miles, who is awesome. And he actually runs a podcast of his own. It's a political podcast now called This Is Revolution. Oh, and at the time he played in a band called Within Absolute Demand, and he plays in Bitter Lake now. He's also gone on tour with me as a second guitar player. Like he's awesome. I love that dude. And that's well, I didn't mean to take away from what you're talking about, but there's people that I've met from the show that are fast friends, musical collaborators, and just because of like relationships built from getting to know someone from being on the show. But the thing about Jason Miles, I remember because he's done all these weird ass like odd jobs basically.
Yeah.
Like because that's like what he would do, like because they would tour most of the year, and so he would just, I'm gonna go to this fracking place in North Dakota.
Yeah, he had some crazy stuff. Like I remember like him talking about how the oil rigs really are, and they're super violent, and people are really like confrontational. And I don't remember the end point of that story, but I also remember him talking about touring in England, and like he was in some situation where someone like really lost it and started just breaking everything.
Right. Yeah. I remember that was a good episode. And that was an episode that like a lot of people wouldn't check out the episodes for people that they didn't know. And it was like, you're missing out because like most people we have on are like pretty freaking interesting. Like they're there because they're interesting.
Really, I mean, and that really shined a light on. I know musicians, and I know touring is like a very specific type of lifestyle, and I didn't know just how like wild things are in terms of like just like the things you wouldn't expect. Like I can totally imagine the partying aspect and what goes on there, but some of the like situations you might end up in are just pretty amazing, and the resourcefulness you have to come up with to deal with those situations or get out of them. If they're bad, they're usually somehow negative, but have a happy ending, hopefully. But I was always really amazed by the things people shared, and also like the consistent theme I always heard from people was take the money. If you get offered,
I think that was a Buzz Osborne specific thing he said. I can't remember if he said it on. Yeah, but it was like take the money.
He did.
If you get offered the money, take it.
So did Steve Albini, and so did the gentleman that runs that website that I can't remember.
Travis Keller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much
No,
like
it consistent. It was consistent of like if someone asks you if you're a god, say yes. It was I believe my takeaway on that. Just to take it back to Ghostbusters.
yeah, it was really interesting to well, I noted that theme because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and I'm like a couple years younger than you, and I was like, oh yeah, this is something I probably need to think about.
Right.
I'm gonna be old one day, and like I need to think about where my future is gonna
what's that gonna look like?
in itself. And now things have really hit the fan, and I'm just like, are we in a place where we could somehow dismantle the patriarchy or whatever the heck people, I'm like, everyone wants to tear down everything now. And back then it was like kind of, I know you're very politically aware, and things were happening at that time that like I wasn't even I read the news a lot more now. I'm very like aware of happenings, and at that time I was like, oh, someone just told me this crazy thing is going on, I need to look at it. And often that would be you, but it's just
credit where credit's due. I'll take it.
And like your concern was valid, because now it's like there are people involved in activism that, and I feel like that's closely tied to music. It's an art form that people are expressing themselves, which is a reflection of our daily experience in life. And things have. Do
you remember the I Can't Breathe episode? Do you remember that? That was like pretty early on, but it was like when Eric Garner. I specifically remember because you got Ryan, that artist, to come in, and I was so worked up about it that I almost completely ignored him and just turned into like basically me.
I kind of
writing a real-time manifesto about police brutality and police killing black people, and like just going off more than normal.
I don't specifically remember the angst that going on, but I do remember that, and specifically the Sandy Hook situation. When that happened, I remember you being like really up in arms. Right.
Yeah, because we dealt with like Ferguson, we dealt with Sandy Hook, we dealt with like these events as they were coming through, but also, hey y'all, here's a Body Future song, it was like but it was interesting to me because as much as I was like, I don't know if any of this stuff fits together personally, I would hear from a lot of people that like that style of doing the show that way and having the show be how it was something that was actually very like good for people in a way different way that the show is now. Like the show is good for people now in a different way, because now the show has become more intimate and more driven on the art and the why do you do what you do element of it. But it just occurred to me, like looking back, because when we decided to have you I'm using the royal we for some reason. We decided to have you back on when Christ.
It's fine. You can use the royal we.
I started thinking the things I was thinking about was the epiphanies that kind of still stick with me, like Ray Washam from Scratch Acid and Ministry and whatnot, talking about like the moment where he was like, I'm done playing music. Like, and it was filling in for Jason Schwartzman in Phantom Planet and being like, what am I doing? And like this is a dude that like like and just having that, like hearing about him just being like, I'm done with this now. And but like having to be like, this dude is like a drummer, a world-class musician, has been in these amazing bands. Like that stuck with me, but it also stuck with me that it was also a current event show. It just put through the filter of these people from like the weirdo rock music world.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that show exists anymore, because that isn't what this show is anymore. I mean, I'm not apolitical about stuff, but it's more intimate now, and it's certainly less irreverent. We're certainly not doing the weather, Not that we were ever doing the weather, but except for as
Maybe
a
you
bit.
should.
I don't know. Maybe I don't do enough, I guess, huh? But yeah, like it's those two things occur to me that like there was still. So when I think of like the Ray Washam episode or Falco talking about McCluskey getting their stuff ripped off and it basically kind of breaking the back of the band and things like along those lines, like those moments have sort of carried over. Those moments have carried over, and I feel like this show still does it. But I feel like the immediacy and the current events angle. It's not that it's not addressed. I mean, especially quarantine is like the first thing is like, okay, how are you dealing with quarantine? You know, like, and then that turns into like, probably the first 20 minutes of it, and everyone's basically on the same page about it. It's the one unifying thing that has happened in our lifetimes is that everyone's dealing with the same BS. And I've been lucky enough not to get anybody on that that has an opinions differ on worldview. But
you haven't?
I have not. No, nobody.
Wow.
Everybody's been in the same boat. I mean, I think it's something where if you make music, if you're creative, you're fucked right now.
Yeah.
And that's universal. And like even people that like maybe aren't doctrinaire progressives or whatever, like it's common sense, it's critical thinking, and like I said, I'm sure they probably exist. But Smash Mouth or was it Five Finger Death Punch or whatever? Like they're not coming on the show. And I wouldn't want them.
Kid Rock did a show recently with a bunch of fans. Like,
sure he did.
Yeah,
Well, first of all, your punishment is being at a Kid Rock show, but then also you have to listen to his bullshit.
And you also have COVID now. Man, double
and also you've got the COVID. Congratulations. You just got hit with the triple whammy.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's really interesting because, like on the podcasts I've been listening to, and I listen to some that like address racism, like the 1619, the New York Times one, and then a couple of like news podcasts. But
I'd like to welcome the New York Times, our new sponsor.
Well, I mean, it's really well done. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's not like.
Hey, you heard of this thing called the New York Times?
Yeah.
it's all the people are loving it more and more.
It's a credible story. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right. I'll lay off.
I mean, they've all been talking about like quarantine and having breakdowns, and now most of them are in therapy and mention that, which I will be on that tip soon. As soon as I can find somebody that will see me for free. But it's like this is so the mandate, California mandated the shutdown first. It happened on my birthday.
Okay.
And I had all these plans, and I had double called and been like, reservations. I have reservations, and they happen to be in Nevada because I live on the state line. And I was like, just checking, how are you guys doing over there? Because, things are shutting down here. I don't have a job now. And they're like, what? Yeah, we're open, whatever. And then they call me like on the day and they're like, sorry, we have to cancel your reservations. I'm like, I knew it. And then my boyfriend's like, what do you want to do now? And I'm like, I cannot comprehend what I want to do now.
I literally cannot think of this now. Yeah, exactly.
I am going to cry just because you asked that question. But it was also like snowing a bunch here, and like all these people came to ski, and then all the resorts shut down. It was like a freaking poop show in Tahoe. They took all our groceries and went back to San Francisco. And
right.
We got to get out of here. We got to leave. So we like went to this tiny little lake place. And for one evening, we went to a friend's house together, like just like we'd all been alone for weeks, and got, had our little party time, got drunk, and forgot about everything for a few hours.
Yeah. And it's possible.
And then, and I mean, this was 5 months ago. And and even now it's still incomprehensible. But at that time, I was like, well, at least I'm not alone in this situation. There are millions of other people who are also dealing with this tragedy, and I'm not even affected horribly, and I have the privilege of like living in this beautiful place and having support and people that support me. They're obviously much more tragedy than I'm experiencing, but wrapping my brain around the situation and
The larger situation, sure, yeah.
As a musician, I'm sure, like, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Like, there's really no getting around. You have to
and everyone is, yeah. And that's so what I, people have been asking me, how are you holding up? And I'm like, terrible, but a lot better than most. Is usually how I've been answering, because it's true. It's, I'm not well at all, but I'm gainfully employed. I got that going for me. I've lost 2 friends and musical collaborators in the last 6 months. There's been like other death and tragedy. There's a bunch of personal stuff I don't even want to get into, but like doing better than most. I don't have to live on unemployment because everyone just like let the ball drop. Whatever, that doesn't matter. And I don't know, like, and it's am I doing great? No, but doing this shows is basically kept me sane, especially for that like 6 month period where 6 week period where I was unemployed, couldn't tour, couldn't practice, and also couldn't write. I was, for the first time in, 5 years, couldn't write music. Couldn't do any of it. I just was blocked. And part of it was just I was so angry, I think. But anxiety, anger, frustration, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I wonder if that's ever going to come back. Oh, well, something else to worry about, And about the only thing that kept me, getting up the next morning to do stuff was this show.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's why I stepped up to doing episodes like almost every day. And what I found, well, first of all, everyone was home. So all these people that are like, I don't have time for podcasts. Well, you got time now, motherfucker. and through the
like bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit. Oh yeah, you busy? What the fuck you busy with? Gilmore Girls? Come on, get the fuck out. Listen to this shit. And no, what I found though is that people were also finding the show as like an anchor, something to anchor them down, to hear people that, a lot of cases of musicians that they like or respect, but just hear other people in the same boat, even people that they consider like a big deal or whatever. Like, no, everyone's like low grade freaking the fuck out right now. And like, if they're not, like, they're just, okay, how are they dealing with it? Okay, they're dealing with this. And so that kind of has led to this, I don't know, 4th wave of people finding the show. Oh, and that's been cool. And yeah, it's it's not something I take lightly. Like, the show has always had its worldview, but it's kind of like hit a little harder, I think, just because of that. And like, again, I don't take it lightly because, man, I wasn't in a good place either. I literally, this was my life raft. This was my like single plank of wood that I was like floating in the ocean with, was this show.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing, because the last time we talked, you told me that you've had moments where you wanted to stop doing the show, but something always comes along and brings you back to the purpose, like a person will recognize you or whatever. And now this has happened, and to hear you say that is kind of amazing, the progression. I mean, because it's been 7 years, like under 7 years.
Yeah, it used to be more like a letter in a bottle situation. Like, someone would, I would be just about ready to quit, and someone would just send a nice email of like, hey, I just want to let you know how much I like the show. Thanks. It's like, oh, okay. There is someone listening, because it's such a passive medium. You're throwing stuff out into the void is what it feels like. You're throwing it out in the void. Yeah. And it's understandable you can get in your head about it. And I do, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's no way you couldn't. But right now, having a purpose is so huge. I mean, it's just having something, like, I have been experiencing that anger as well, and I'm not usually an angry person. I generally, like, struggle with self-esteem, but I have been feeling terrible for a long time, for longer than quarantine, but like specifically right now, like I'm just like, and my life is not bad. I have a boyfriend who's very supportive and kind, and I live in one of the most beautiful places in the country.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
I go swim, like, I live like a mile up a mountain from the lake, and I have this nice house. We moved 3 weeks before the lockdown happened, and I'm so glad that we have like roommates now, because we were alone before and we get to interact with people. But still, all this stuff comes up, and I think it's just like we're so used to everything functioning in a certain way, and now it has been completely torn down, maybe for the best. Who knows what life will look like when things resume.
Yeah.
This is going to last for a long time.
Yeah.
I basically I've been on unemployment, and I was trying to deal with a claim mistake that I had, and I spoke to a man working for our congressperson to help people get through like the unemployment process, because it's a political thing. So
It is, yeah.
Unfortunately, but he was a very, very sweet man, and I was talking to him briefly because he was not able to fix my situation, but he basically was like, yeah, everything in your area, because of the tourism factor, is going to be really challenging for a long time. It's not going to go away, and you probably should find a different job. And I was like,
woof.
What?
Yeah, that's
I was just like,
harsh joke, as they say in the biz.
Yeah, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of millions of people in Tahoe right now. Like, I can tell you, it's so smoky that this is the first day, because it rained last night, I've been able to be outside without getting sick, because it's been like oppressively smoky here for like 5 days. There are still thousands of people out with no masks, just like wandering about, coughing on each other, licking their faces. Like, what
goddamn animals? Yeah, exactly.
We are in a pandemic. Why are you licking that person's eyeball? Like, seriously.
I know. For luck.
And so to see that and be like, I'm unemployed and like I can't, I'm enjoying the land as well. But
I should get some employment as an eyeball licker. Apparently, it's all the rage.
I know. I should just be like, I'm an ophthalmologist. Come here.
I've got a very specific set of skills.
I am here to help you. But seriously, like, it's hard to hear a government official be like, you should work for the county. And I'm like, I just paid off my student loan. I just paid $1,000 to like have a license and like work in a certain industry. And now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I guess I could work at the post office. I could be a librarian.
Right.
There are so many people that have it so much worse off. Like, it's hard for everyone to be in this situation where we're like, what is going on? What am I doing?
Yeah, all the uncertainty. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like people are under a microscope. We have the time and energy to pick apart things that don't need picking apart.
Dude, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna hijack this conversation for a second to tell you a story of something yesterday, which is to say that for the first time since we canceled our U.S. store in March that we got through 2 dates of, I got back together in a room with Tony and with 2 other guys that play in the live band to play, just for the sake of playing, because I literally haven't turned on an amplifier in almost 6 months.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm in a bad head state right now. Like, I've lost friends. The world is an endless hellfire, etc.
Seriously. Like, really.
And the practice space that we went to is in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it's which is Tony's practice space, and it's huge. It's like you can 6 feet nothing. Like, there's 12 feet between everyone. Like, it's safe. That was great. That was awesome. That was very therapeutic. That actually made me feel like a lot better about the world and everything. It's kind of like I made it akin to someone who's lost a limb suddenly having it come back is what it felt like to me, or what I would imagine that fantastical scenario would be like. And then
that just reminded me of a guy who grew a penis on his arm for 4 years.
You know what? Brenna, I did hear about that.
And
I think it's probably similar.
You know, the one of the first things I thought of is like, wow, I would love to talk about that with Brenna on old school Protonic Reversal, because like, we would be able to get 40 minutes out of that. I freaking guarantee you.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, back to your story. You read.
Yeah. So everything was So I grew a penis on my arm. I'm thinking to myself, I got this penis on my arm. What am I gonna do with all these extra peni?
Yeah. Good thing I wear coveralls.
Yeah, peni surplus. Yeah. So I get home and I find out that an unarmed black man was shot in the back almost 7 times after breaking up a fight between 2 people. And in his car was his 3 children. And this happened about 1.5 miles from the practice space at the exact time that we were playing. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like one of those things like, oh, you feel okay about stuff? Fuck you. You know, here's the world like curb stomping, you know, any good feelings that you might have had. Because how are you going to like feel good about something that flippant when it's like, oh yeah, lest we forget, like this is the world we live in is a flaming skull flying around the room, screeching at top volume at all times.
How did you find out about that? Like, was it on your Instagram feed? Or?
It was in the news, and actually, I think Tony might have told me I can't, but like it was multiple sources, and it's
still in the news.
It's heavy, you know, and but it's not new, and it's and you know what I was thinking about? It was like that reminds me of like Ferguson. And the episode we did where I literally, like, you know, the poor bastard that came in to talk about his art, and I just was like, nope, we're talking about this.
I did.
I just railroaded him, and
it's okay. He's really self-centered, so it's probably better to have.
I think he's just like, I just want to talk about my art. Like, nope.
Like, you talk about your art every day in every situation. So
talking about something different here, son.
I mean, he's politically aware as well, so I think it's probably healthy for a direction to be shifted. But that's crazy that was 1.5 miles from where you were.
It was well, and JB, who frequently, and again, it's only one of the many live versions of Conan Neutron: The Secret Friends. He plays drums, and he happens to be a black man. And I remember we were standing outside, just kind of like talking about the news of the day, like afterwards. Like he was ready to drive away, I was ready to drive away. I remember just feeling like kind of extra anxious for some reason. Like, I don't know why. Like, I kept kind of like eyeing every car that came by, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And the fact that it's Kenosha, and Kenosha is a little bit like, I'm trying to think what an analog would be. I don't know. Fresno or something. Like, culturally, just not metropolitan. Let's put it that way.
It's very white?
Very white, very, you know, it used to... I'm not here to do a history of Kenosha or nothing, but like it has they did auto manufacturing there before that was all shipped overseas, but that's gone, so it's impoverished. Anyway, point of fact is that it just reminded me of just the ubiquity of the flaming, shrieking skull of doom that flies around the room in all of our houses these days.
That is like true and horrible, but also like kind of a funny image. But
I mean, you can.
I just see it kind of.
And now
like
on the scene reporter, flaming, shrieking skull.
But like in a way that's kind of, I don't know. At a point, I'm imagining it getting tired and being like the annoying chipmunks that are behind me. But
or it starts half-assing it. It's being like,
yeah.
You're not even putting your effort into it. That's barely a shriek at all.
It's really.
I'm just so tired.
I know. I mean, like, really, can we stop this?
I've been doing this for 7 months. Yeah.
I'm tired of this trope. I've had enough. But, like,
I don't know. I put my resume up on what Monster? What do people put resumes up on now? I guess it depends on what it is. I'm blowing this joke. LinkedIn. But this is the skull talking. I updated my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think somebody wants to recruit me for a pyramid scheme. I'm thinking that might be better than what I got. I don't know. This is the skull speaking, not me.
Yeah, no, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, the skull
Okay.
is like, honestly, you can't ignore it. But when it half-asses it, I'm just like, oh, what? Like,
Yeah, it's like, are you really a shrieking flaming skull?
super unprofessional.
Or are you a complaining flaming skull?
Yeah, like, meh. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you brought that up because earlier my friend messaged me and was like, hey, don't watch that video. I feel like it's too much for you right now.
It's a lot.
And I had no idea. I had seen, like, I saw that a thing happened and another man was shot, and it's not like I'm numb to it. I just was like, I can't engage in that right now.
Yeah.
Also, my state is on fire, and like,
Right.
like my boyfriend lived in Santa Cruz for 10 years, and like we were gonna move there in February, and like his friend's house is possibly gone. And, you know, like we were gonna move there, and just yesterday he was like, you need to think about what other possibilities you have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Santa Cruz is gonna be available for us, because I'm planning to go back to school now that I can't work.
Yeah.
So this whole situation, like in the fire, like I've been really ill. It's next level. Like the time did you move to Milwaukee in 2018 or 2000?
Yeah, it was 2017, I think. It's been like 3 years this month, if I remember correctly. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that year was when the Santa Rosa fires happened. So,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was my first time experiencing that not living there and being like, oh, wow, this is weird. And like seeing how it was covered, which is to say that no one here like noticed or cared. Which is like, oh, yeah, no, I guess nobody gives a shit about this if you don't live in the place that's on fire. Okay.
I think people that used to live in California, like I have been hearing some bit of like, oh, we feel kind of helpless. But it's like, it's a lot to deal with on top of the physical aspect, on top of like looking at the news and just understanding like, oh my gosh, there's an election coming and like all this stuff, and oh, what are we gonna do? Like Congress is on recess and has not decided to do anything to help us, and we're pretty much helpless in terms of fire. I mean, if there's a fire in Tahoe, which there are actually Caltrans trucks, like water trucks out looking for fires, because if there were a fire,
because it'll go out of control immediately. Yeah,
it would be a complete humanitarian disaster. There would be like millions of deaths because there's only 2 roads out of here. So I've had my car packed with emergency supplies since last week. But to think about that, and then last night there was a lightning storm. It was a pretty crazy. We're having lightning storms in California now that never used to be a thing.
Yeah, didn't used to be a thing. Yeah.
That's the whole problem. I know it's a La Nina year, so it makes the weather different, but yeah, on top of that, my friend is like, don't watch that video. And I was like, what video? What's going on? She's like, oh, the man, James Blake. And I was like, oh, I don't watch those videos. I can't. I never do. I understand what's happening. I pay attention. I read stuff.
Yeah, but you don't need to. It's if you want to be just made absolutely useless with rage, I suggest watching it. Because if you have an ounce of empathy towards your fellow human beings and you see something like that, like you can't not react.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably useful for some people who are blind and removed from reality to see that. And I don't support the trauma porn, as they call it, because for me, it's just a little, I'm too empathetic. I'm not too empathetic, but it's really intense. And when the Black Lives Matter movement resurged and all the protests were happening and everything, I mean, I was really angry, and I haven't stopped being angry. And I honestly, like, I'm not
I don't know if you should,
I'm not even experiencing the negative effects of racism, and it's really like interesting that just came up again because my friend was like, don't watch that video. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know what happened. Like, what do we do though? And it's so like, I think most people feel so overwhelmed and so helpless in situations, but talking about it honestly is a huge start. Discussing things, even if it's ad nauseum, I feel like having those conversations, especially with people that you don't normally have these conversations with, is actually doing something. It's not ignoring it.
Well, I've been enjoying this conversation with someone I don't normally have conversations with, even though we used to have conversations all the time. And it's great talking to you, Brenna. And it's been far too long.
It's really nice to connect, and I'm glad. I honestly, I thought about you because of the loss you've experienced and shared that you were experiencing, and we all experience loss and grieving, but it's an individual thing. But I thought, like, as I was driving back from New Mexico 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I don't know where it was. I was thinking, I was like, it is a lot to do a podcast. And I was like, I wonder if Conan needs a little help or motivation right now, being in in quarantine and also losing a friend. And it's like, well, I have all the time in the world to be helpful in the terms of, being more than one person. Like, just being yourself on a podcast, like you said, it can be a little burdensome, if that's even a word.
I believe it is, and it can, and it's good. I don't know. We should talk. Like it's. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want to do this. I didn't even feel like doing the 200th episode. But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be pissed at myself if I don't, because it's a milestone, and it. And it again, as much as the internal side, getting back to the thing I was talking about, how just get the idea that you're just shoveling stuff into a void and like no one's listening and it doesn't matter, nobody cares. It matters and people care, and it touches people in ways that you're not immediately going to notice. And sort of bearing down and being like, okay, let's do it, and let's find a way to do it that sort of honors the intent of the show in a new and interesting way. I feel pretty good about it. And again, you were a huge part. I can't, for people that only listen to the show now or only checking out individual episodes, maybe, well, you're probably not hearing this, but for those that are hearing it, Brenna Betts, you were a huge part of the show and a huge part of what helped make the show good. And something worthwhile, something other than just like, here's a thing that's happening, but something like, no, here's something that's happening it's worth paying attention to. And I always enjoyed doing the show with you. And I don't know, technology seems to be the case. We could probably do it again, I guess. So, that's a whole separate conversation. But yeah, it's great talking to you. Do you have any, just before I let you go, do you have any remembrances or kind of maybe amusing or funny moments for the listening audience of your days in Protonic Reversal?
I do. I have like some inside information that's kind of funny, but also like I definitely like remember when we shifted to the evenings. I was drinking more, so there were a couple times that I was a little tipsy, not like drinking to excess, but I would have a beer or two with guests, and that always made things really interesting.
It always does.
But I also remember discussing on one episode that like my boyfriend at the time asked me to be his girlfriend, like specifically. Like I've never had like that type of like, will you be my girlfriend type of conversation, which I think is a normal thing. And maybe I haven't been in.
Yeah. Are you from the 1950s? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I remember you played like a song in the background while we were talking about it. He was so upset about that. Like,
Really?
for years. we were only together for 2 years, and he was not a very nice person. So it's not like having more information. I hope he's listening.
Would you prefer that we discuss it on air? I mean, I thought that was.
He was really upset that I revealed that information because he thought I was making fun of him.
I see. He thought it was like you're doing a bit or something, or just not being. Okay, I get you. This is if you watch the movie Private Parts, it's like this writ small. That.
Yeah, and in my mind, in that situation, I thought it was sweet. Like I wasn't. I didn't think anything negative of him or the fact that he asked or anything at all. Like I actually like was like, oh, this is nice. Like I've never really experienced this before. But he thought I was making fun of him, and
that's a bummer.
I like that's indicative of his personality, and there were other issues as well, and I'm glad that I don't have to worry about that now. But it's kind of funny to think of now, like 3 years later, you know, think of that sometimes and how ridiculous that was to me to hear him be like, why did you do that? I'm like, he was really mad, like really upset with me. And I was like, I don't even comprehend. And that's the thing about people. It's like, we're all different creatures. Different boundaries. And I just didn't know. But now it's kind of like funny to think back and think like, but honestly, like,
do you have any memories of me not ruining your relationships by doing the show?
You didn't ruin my relationship. It is, you know, mental health ruins our relationship, but
no, I get it.
No, like I definitely really enjoyed our interview with the Melvins and with Buzz and Age. Like that was a really fun time to me. I was like super grateful because I knew I was like, this is not an experience I'm gonna have like in years from now. This is like not just a once in a lifetime thing because it was them, but also like I was like, I know that our lives will change and I won't have that opportunity in the future. And so I was really grateful because he has some crazy stories.
Yeah. I'm Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, I remember that.
He had some crazy stories. And I was like, whoa, like you are a character. And I feel like there will come a time when people like that just like are less notable and don't exist in the same manner. Like we don't get to know them quite as well, especially now that we're like, who knows how the earth is going to be with this COVID situation. Like things have psychologically shifted and we're not, I mean, I hope that one day we get to have shows again and go. Yeah,
that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
It might be some time. It's going to be a while, but it will be different.
I believe we will. I believe it's going to be a while, but I believe we will. And it's, it'll be cool.
It'll be really fun.
I'm an optimist at heart, believe it or not. So, Brenna, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad I got to see your face and hear your voice.
It won't be multiple years until we talk next time, so don't worry.
Yeah, I hope not. Anytime. Yeah, if you ever want to, just text me anytime. I'm unemployed.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Brenna.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Miss Brenna Betts, former co-host of the show, friend of the show, and right now we have none other than Mr. Josh Davis. Welcome, sir.
Conan, what's up, my friend?
Been a while. Been a bit.
It's been a bit. Well, there's this whole disease thing, keeps me inside a lot.
Is there something going on? Yeah, I had no idea.
I haven't heard of it. Hey, what are you talking about?
I've just been in this basement staring at this screen for the past 9 months.
You're in a good spot. I'd say stay there.
Don't go out there. Don't do it.
No. You're not missing anything.
I was telling Brenna earlier that my initial enthusiasm level for this, I use an Office reference. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's somebody's birthday party and they have a banner that says "It is your birthday."
Sounds about right.
And I was saying,
You
like,
have done 200 of these.
it is the 200th episode. It was like my but then I also was like, you know what? This deserves my effort and attention to. I like memorials and keystones and things along those nature. I think they're important. I think they should be celebrated. So even though I don't feel incredibly celebratory right now.
No, but it's a definite signpost as to how much work you've been putting in, man. Because the 100th episode was not that long ago by comparison.
It really wasn't. Like, someone made it like, yeah, you kind of kicked it up into Warp 9, dude. And it's like, oh, I guess I did.
Yeah, fill in a little gap in people's lives. That's definitely worthwhile.
So that's the interesting thing is the quarantines of this show. You know, I got laid off. And I was dealing with, we had all our tour dates cancel.
Right.
And can't do that. Don't have a job. Don't have an uncertain future thing going on. There's a whole bunch of, like I won't get into it, but there was a bunch of costs that were not going to be recouped, too. And basically, and then I was like, oh, no problem, I'll write music. I'm like, no, I'm actually too angry to do that effectively.
Yes.
And it's the first time that has happened basically since I started Secret Friends. So the first time in like 5 years. And I was like, wow, what if that just doesn't come back? Cool. There's something else to worry about. And so as much as doing like the Protonic Reversals just in this, relentless onslaught way.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like this is a lifeboat. It was like, that was like the piece of driftwood that the dude is like holding on to. It's like I'm barely fucking hanging on here. And so, and one thing I learned early on with the quarantine episodes was like, well, everyone's in the same boat. Like nobody knows what's going on. Whatever you're doing, whether you're like an indie band that nobody's heard of, or the biggest person in the world, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can do anything, and everyone's that is remotely creative is in the same boat about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a universal moment. That doesn't happen very often.
That's very true.
So then the side effect to that has been that people have gotten value out of it. And all these people are like, oh, I don't have time to listen to podcasts.
Yeah, you fucking do. What else are you doing?
You say? Yeah, exactly. I'm busy. I made a catching up on Gilmore Girls reference earlier, so I can't use that same one. But I was trying to think of like a third tier sci-fi show, but nothing springing to mind.
Oh man, I got way into Sequest. Real deep.
I was gonna go with Stargate Atlantis, which I feel pretty good about.
Pretty good.
I honestly, there's Stargate Universe. I haven't seen it right. There's Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Universe is what I'm thinking. Universe I kind of like because I was like, oh, y'all like Battlestar Galactica? Here's Battlestar Galactica with Stargate, Okay.
All right.
SG-1 was just a good show, I think. It was a good pulpy sci-fi show.
I'm completely trusting you on this, man.
It's fine. I mean, has any of it held up? I don't know. But I feel, which is a long way of saying I appreciate my reference of saying Stargate Atlantis, which is sort of like, who watches that? Who's that for?
It's for everybody now.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone's got all this time, right? So anyway.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anything. So often it used to be that it was just casting stuff out into the void is what it felt like.
Certainly. Yeah, you didn't really. It's hard to get, hard to gauge necessarily, Well,
it's a passive medium. Yeah, but it's a passive medium. Like, all you see is like, okay, well, this many people download it. Well, what does that mean? There's a lot of stuff I download that.
Right.
That doesn't mean a goddamn thing. But then to have it be from, as we mentioned, me being like, I'm done. I'm quitting this. And then like getting the nice email of like, hey, I just wanted the show. I really like the show. Now it's like, oh no, this is actually a part of people's lives. And this is like a thing that it's leveled up in a way that as it was important to me being the dude on the driftwood floating
right
in the ocean, it is
now,
some degree of solace for other folks as well, and that's nice, and that's a cool thing. I'm sorry you missed all that.
Well, I mean, we would have had to figure out something different one way or another, as it turns out, and that's okay.
I guess we never really talked about this, did we? Huh?
No, we never did.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, man. Honestly, it was we worked together for a little while, and I feel like initially it was just it was just when you were getting started doing the show again.
It was like 35 episodes or so, something along those lines.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, number one, it's always easier to have somebody next to you to bounce off of, and just somebody to dialogue with, even, particularly in the interview sections,
Right.
Having somebody, it's way easier to banter than to just be coming up with stuff off the top of your head.
You sound less like an insane person. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there were certain, there were, I had a good time doing it the whole time, but there were factors that were the reasons I decided I wasn't going to do it anymore. We went on a little bit of a hiatus there at where we were. I can't remember why exactly. Were you on tour maybe?
Probably, and probably also I just was reaching another fed up moment. Who knows?
Could be.
Like, and you specifically referenced I'm pretty extra, so there was a lot of times that you were relegated more to the Ed McMahon role, and yes, you are correct, sir.
And honestly, I was thinking about it today, and I didn't mind that at all.
Yeah, you were starting to kind of, because you went from one of being having all the free time in the world to being kind of busy again, doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and we were trying to ramp up and write new songs, and also get ready for the 20th anniversary show that did not happen. We were getting ready, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were.
And playing shows to get the record out there and all that. And I started having less time than I did initially when we started working on the show. Certainly, and it's it's been.
And I remember you kind of offered to be like, look, I'll still come in, for shows you think where it might make sense or it might add value or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then I actually did start thinking to myself what if I just do this on my own? What maybe this will be different than the other times where I've been like, this is fucking terrible. I don't want to do this on my own. Maybe something has changed. And
there you go.
And then I was like, nope, I'm definitely quitting. And then I was like, nope, I'm definitely not quitting. And then then the quarantine happened.
Yeah. Now you're in it. You're deep in it, man.
Yeah, but it's for anyone that thinks it's been a straight line, it definitely hasn't. And well, it's interesting because you were kind of at the you were like the challenge for civilized society.
Man, I appreciate that. Actually, yeah, I get you.
The thing is, I know you're gonna get that.
Yeah,
but it's kind of true. I mean, because it's sort of because that record slams, and it's a forecasting of things that are to come. It's maybe not the first record you think of, but it's got serious jams on it, and you can basically see what was coming with it.
Yeah, it threw everybody for a loop at the time.
Yeah,
this is gonna be it, and get ready.
So, I appreciate it. Like I said, I was real in my head about all of it. And I actually really enjoyed all the shows that you were on. Any problems that the show had certainly had nothing to do with you and everything to do with me and just my insane headspace. So apologies if stuff ever got. I think we're good, right? Hopefully.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Okay. I assume we are. We still talk and stuff. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Don't be telling me if what was it? It's funny people to just talk shit and never tell me, and I'm like, oh well, you could have just talked me, and that would have been a thing that would have been cool.
Yeah, but that's not how I am. Yeah.
Did you enjoy being on the show? Did you have any nice memories or anything?
Oh man, definitely. I think it was after kind of knowing him as an acquaintance for many years, that I felt a lot closer to Tim Midyet when we had him in.
Yeah, that was a really cool, and he's been on before, but that's the one where it's yeah, that's the one. If you're gonna listen to one with him, I think that's even still. I've had him on since then. It was great, but it's no, that one was special, and it
felt like a really good conversation. Yeah. So I appreciate really stuff great. Like that, the insanity of the 100th episode. What we planned was ridiculous.
Why don't you explain to the listeners the exact insanity from your perspective?
For the 100th episode, you planned was it 10 guests?
Oh my god, fuck those.
for like 10 minutes each.
Yeah.
In 2 hours with this, and there's no producer on the show. I hesitate to add. If you haven't mentioned this before, it's just you.
Yeah, I think people get the idea that it's a larger operation than it is.
No,
and
there's nobody coordinating phone calls. It's just you fucking panicking because Albini won't pick up. Like, you said to call at this time.
Hazelmeyer loses his phone underneath the couch.
Because he's eating some cake and he doesn't know where his phone went. All right, that's cool. But I gotta say, apart from that, you got 8 out of 10 guests in 2 hours.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Yeah, well, and eventually, and like it ended up being everyone but Steve. It was on the original schedule.
Hazelmeyer finally got in,
and I made some reference to it when he finally did come on again, and he politely begged my pardon, and it was over. But I was like, fuck, dude, I almost goddamn landed it. I almost landed it. It was so close, and to be clear, it was stupid. It was a stupid thing to do. Like in a history of doing dumb things, it was a dumb thing to do. Just dumb. D-U-M-B, dumb. But like I also was like, that's interesting. That's like
fun. It was fun.
Who would do that? Who would like? Is this gonna be fun to listen to? I don't know.
I don't know. I hope we got across in the episode like how much it was the seat of our pants. I hope we did.
There was some good feedback on that one. I feel like, I overused the phrase, but it feels like it was a little bit of a 1,000-mile walk in the desert for an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
But it was good. And you know what, man? Nobody else has done that crazy shit. And nobody else should do that crazy shit. But nobody else
Well, here's the thing. There are two things that I think that would have made it work a lot better. Number one, a producer, obviously.
Yes. In general, that'd probably be a good idea.
Number two, if you had decided to do this more than like 2 weeks ahead of that. It was not a long time.
No, that's yeah.
Like that maybe would have been a little helpful.
A little bit of prep time, a little bit of time to kind of work things out ahead of time, make sure that you have the right phone number.
Yeah.
Throw that out there.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, the week before that we were working on whatever 99 was, and whatever.
Yeah.
Was. Like the way you were doing it, particularly the time, and I don't know if I don't know how much this has changed with you, doing so many more episodes. But at the time, it was like between work and day jobs and everything. Like this was the amount of time you really had.
Yeah. No, it honestly hasn't changed that much. I mean,
okay.
It's gotten better, I think, and I've definitely but there's definitely times that I'm like, oh shit, I gotta haul ass down the stairs to go do the show. It still happens, and the fact that doesn't come across, I think, is a testament to to the show. The fact that the good side of it being extemporaneous comes across, but it doesn't sound ill prepared for the most part.
Yeah, not for the most part. But part of that too is that you don't interview strangers. You don't interview people that you don't know anything about.
Yeah, there's a resting state of preparedness, preparation. Preparation. Yes, there's a resting state of preparation. Because I don't have anyone on that I can't, that I'm not interested in, first of all, and that I can't speak to and probably get something out of it. And that's when I tell people that I've been pitched guests that are big guests and said no, no. I was like, you just really don't get the show then, because there's a bunch of people where it's that would be people would be tuned in to hear it, but it wouldn't be the show because it's not someone I'm interested in. And could I fake my way through it? Probably, but that's not. Man, pay me some money and I'll do that.
Pay you some money to do the research.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll talk to anyone if you slap a fake smile and cast a check. Great, but. That's not whether people realize it or not. That's not that level of authenticity is important. It's important to the show.
Well, and I could certainly say, like, for the time that I was on the show, I think there were only rare occurrences that I didn't know, somebody's work going in. And for those times, for sure, you were, like, completely steeped. Like, maybe it was even people you talked to before. And you would do your best to kind of, like, get me in during the week. It was like, this is what they're doing. This is what th're
like, here's what, this is all about, whatever.
This YouTube or watch this movie or whatever.
Yeah.
So you do your best to get me up to speed. But there was never a time where you were just like,
yeah, this one, I don't know. It's
yeah, and it was.
He's got a movie called,
It leads to good conversation, even with somebody like I remember being like super excited to interview Sam Coombs, and that was a super fun show, but he was not very forthcoming.
Yeah, like he wasn't evasive necessarily, but he definitely was not. He was not forthcoming. I think he's
just one of those people that like doesn't think about himself in that way, so he has a hard time. Like, I just was super excited about, like, tell me about the Roxy chord. And he was just like, I found it. It's cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's it? There's nothing more to that story, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that episode still came off good because eventually it just ended up becoming a conversation about just whatever. And I think that's one of your big skills is that you're good at conversation.
Well, thank you. That's, Christ, the goddamn well better be, right? At this point, but
by this point, yeah. But yeah, even somebody like that's just like, doesn't necessarily isn't super forthcoming and won't, it's kind of you have to work with, but you do that, and I think you were always, every episode I've listened to, you've been able to do that.
Well, thanks, and that's something where it's definitely more work with some than it is with others.
I'm sure it is.
Like some people, it's easy. Like, your Falcos or Steve Albini, easy.
Sure.
Talk about whatever, and it's just like, you're off to the races. It's great. This is gold.
Yeah.
You're along for the ride in some cases.
Yeah.
Actually, like your Keith Morris's.
Yeah. Oh, that was great, dude. We asked him like 2 questions.
Yeah.
The whole episode.
All right, that's our time.
Magic. Just lay back, relax.
Okay. That's interesting.
That reminds me of another one of my favorite episodes that when I was on was when we got Rose Marshak from Poster Children on.
Yes.
And I don't know if maybe it was a teacher thing or whatever, but she completely turned around. She was interviewing us.
She wanted to hear about, it was like our path into like punk rock or whatever. And it was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but okay, sure.
And I could kind of watch you be like, should I try to steer this back? And I'm kind of trying to be like, no, just go with it.
Yeah, you're like, let's just roll with it.
Yeah, because this is going to end up cool either way.
Well, because she was genuinely interested too, and that's the other thing where it's like, okay, like sometimes you just don't want to get in the way of what's happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but you got to know, like, you got to know when it's time to get things back on track, and you got to know when it's time to just like, okay, let this be a thing. Like whatever's happening here, let this be a thing.
And it was such an interesting thing too, because it was part of the format and part of the situation. Because you and I have both had numerous conversations with Rose over the years.
Of course, yeah.
And we've known each other for a long time, but we're in this completely different format, and I didn't expect it. But obviously she's a very engaging person to talk to anyway. But yeah, I didn't expect it to for her to turn the tables on us completely like that.
Yeah, it was
just like
certain.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's roll with it. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see what's shaking. Let's see. Let's see how this all pans out.
Yeah, that ended up being a real big favorite of mine.
Yeah, and it's cool too because I feel like in the same way that, well, first of all, it took me way too long to have Kroger on. And that's a me thing. But like when you hear Dale without Buzz, it's a very different situation. And you get to hear more of Dale, who's legitimately interesting. And not that I'm saying that Dale and Buzz are a married couple like Rose and Rick, but I feel like when you got Rick and Rose together, like she by nature kind of wants Rick to do the majority of the talking.
Yeah.
In certain ways. And so you end up getting like a certain balance. And like it was really nice just hearing from her like on her own and hearing her own take on and I think you got like a different Rose Marshak because of that. And yeah, and she's incredibly shy on her own worth for that kind of thing, which annoys me because I'm like, come on. But that's me. Like I'm always the guy. I'm like, come on, stop that, stop, cut it out.
No, I know. Well, and I have to watch myself around that because I'm way too big of a fanboy of hers. So
yeah. Well, and I don't
want to be gushing.
Well, but I like the fact that the show can be something that has episodes like that, or what shtick were we running with Craig? Like, he was talking about like that old hardcore band of his or something. I can't remember. I hated it. I decided to field test the new phone hardware on that episode without trying it out beforehand, which was just made me furious at myself.
Yeah.
But we're just running shtick with Craig from Starter to Think. Like and it was like, wow, this is some life I've built. This is the crazy thing that's happening right now. Like this is, and he was totally down for it. He was like down. He was like super into it. I'm like, this is cool. Like this is a explain this to your younger self sort of moment. And I thought that was very.
I was high from that the whole next week, man.
Yeah, I mean,
that
was great. I like hearing him talk about like the composition stuff and all that. I mean, I think that's and it's. I was trying to remember when the question came out, like what episode that was, because it kind of seemed to develop very naturally. And we were talking earlier, and I was talking about how that like I like the fact that there's like no wrong answer to it. It's sort of like it's like there's your succinct short answer, there's your like long meandering rambling story, there's and none of them are wrong. None of them are wrong. But how many of them begin with like the derivation of because I don't know how to do anything else or something along those lines?
Yeah, there's a ton of that where it's just like it's that I lost the word.
But then you like wait, and then then you hear the actual thing after that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I thought was so interesting was sort of like, and sometimes it's like, no, that's actually what it is. And every once in a while you'll get like a funny answer. Like Jennifer Finch from L7 was like, why do you do what you do? Just like heroin. and then she backed it off, and like you got a real answer. Well, I was like, oh, you're giving a funny answer. And okay, you're doing the funnies. Okay. It's like, Jesus Christ. But I mean, I like the long answers. I like the short answers. I like the flippant ones. I like the serious ones. And that was something that I only discovered when you were in on the show. I'm like, oh, that's what this show is.
Okay, yeah.
Like where it's sort of like I didn't really realize it.
Like that's the raison d'etre of the whole show.
Yeah, because it's like there's things where it's like, oh, this person's like, trying to do like the Mark Maron thing, but it's about like I gotta be real careful what I say, but like there's very there's certain shows have certain things that they do, like certain framework that they work in. Some of them are more specific. I feel like if you're more specific, it gives people a better idea of what it is. It's like Planet of the Apes philosophy, right? You know what you're into when you see the movie title. It's a Planet of Apes. Great, got it.
Yeah.
With the Protonic Reversal, it's like it's a Ghostbusters thing. Like what am I looking at? But
it's Planet's got apes.
Yeah, it's a Planet's got apes. Exactly. It's a Planet of the Apes. What do you want from me? What, an engraved invitation?
Yeah, exactly.
but of the episodes that you were on, and I can't remember where it started, but I find it so interesting that like I didn't know myself that that's what the show was about, because the show had like several stages. Like with Brenna, it was started off as an irreverent morning show, and with certain deeper delves into poignancy and things along those lines, and then that had an evolution on its own. But it definitely became more, like, let's talk about your art. Like, what are you doing with your art? Like, what was the thought process? What happened with you? Like, why that? Like, it almost feels like now it's like final form. Like, it's taken all those things and what I've learned from it, and like, because Mike Moraski from Stipple Bathtub, name drop, change. He listens to the show, again, name drop, change. But he said something like along the lines of, oh, well, you're doing the thing where you go through the records sequentially now, and I'm like, God damn it. So that made me not want to do that. So I just like I was like, oh yeah, motherfucker. So I just stuck down on like a thing, and we kind of explored that like for a while because I was like, oh, you think you know there's a fucking pattern? There's a fucking pattern to this. But as much as like, and that's me, and that's because I'm a contrarian apparently. But there's nothing wrong with that.
It's not a bad pattern at all.
Exactly, and especially because the idea is not just like, oh, tell me about this record. It's like, where were you in the thought process of it? What was going on in the band? What was happening at this time, et cetera, et cetera. And
what changes art-wise between this and that, and what was going on in your life that would influence that? Yeah,
totally. So that's something I got off of you, because when you think about it in terms of epochs of bands, and what was happening during that time, what was like the surrounding circumstances, et cetera, things along those lines. God pound it. What the fuck is going on right now? There's very little free space in this volume. Please, like another temporary deck. Oh, Christ.
Technology. Well, I don't have to tell you about it. You know.
Technology, man. It's a motherfucker. It's like another temporary directory and preferences. Okay, it's temporary directories. Okay. Well, this is why I run with the backup. Yeah. So we're fine. I'm wondering why the Radio Note server, which I just rebuilt not that long ago, has already filled up a terabyte of drive space when the music is not on it. So that seems very weird to me, but
no idea.
No. It's how it is. It's how it is, folks.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we were talking about
this is what this show is. This is what I'm talking about. Like most. Do you think fucking Joe Wong has to deal with this bullshit? He does not. I think fucking like whatever. I don't even know what other shows are there out there. I mean, even Vish Khanna doesn't have to fucking deal with this bullshit. Like if he does, you don't fucking hear about it because he's not trying to do it live. Motherfucker, ain't this just some fucking shit right now? Man. Pisses me off. It pisses me off that I have to fucking like what? Like not that like I'm anything special or anything, but I'm like, Christ on a fucking cracker. Must I be constantly be besought on all sides? Like I'm literally just trying to do, and that's the thing that like, and she was good enough not to bring it up, or to bring it up in a funny manner, but it's like the quality of the show versus the amount of like things that have to be overcome for it to literally happen. I feel like I'm like, it can't possibly be this difficult for everybody. There's no way. There's no way that it's just like.
Well, that's because
if it is, why would anybody do anything? Why would
you put it entirely on your shoulders, Conan?
I know.
I think you're the only person that does that.
I'm probably am. I have no idea why anybody would, because it's the fucking dumbest thing you could ever possibly do for yourself. But here we are.
It's the way it's been, man. When I was on the show, I would just kind of wander in after work and be like, what are we? Yeah, all right.
What are we? You clear the whiteboard?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sitting over. Like I talking about the TARDIS when it's like the steampunk TARDIS where it's like cranking the wheel and it's like wooga wooga. There's this cable and this and that. And I'm like, then like slam the button, like hit the thing, and then on we go, and then we're doing the show. Hey y'all, it's the show.
Hey.
Finger puppet. Let's put on a show. See, I forgot what I had a good point too.
We were just. Epoch.
It's so amazing. It's so amazing. Where I mean, a technical fucking difficulty on the 200th motherfucking show of this piece of shit podcast. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
That's how you know it's real, my friend. That's how you know it's real.
But then also like, and I hate people on radio shows and podcasts that complain about being on radio shows and podcasts. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Despise it. But by the same token, if it's not me, it's pretty funny. So what I'm saying with that is that I hope that and I don't really let those particular warts shine through sure that much, but I feel like I don't know, maybe that's of interest to people. Like I said, look, this show is a miracle. The fact that the show existed this long first of all, it blows my mind, and I fucking do it. The fact that it's like as good as it is also is a freaking the temp file directory. Fuck you, you piece of shit. I found you.
Real-time audio, baby.
Well, and that's the thing is like, I'm like mid-sentence and,
trying to make a point again. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. There it is, you fucking prick fuck. Will not take effect Audacity as we started. Fucking suck my toe, you piece of crap. I don't even know. I don't know what this is. So, anyway, yeah, this show is unique.
It's a proper look into how it really goes, man.
Well, and then, but that's how you were saying when you were having Zoom technical difficulties.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Which is fine. I mean, it's fine. But like when you're having Zoom technical difficulties, and it was like, well, I would normally be playing some music.
Right.
which means I get to have my like infantile tantrums and vanquish my technical support issues and things along those lines. And then, whatever, then we're off to the races. And then it's like, oh, I found a new drive and I changed the temp directory. Wait, what? What are you doing? Oh yeah. And so then so when you were doing Led Zeppelin 3, what was in your mind with, and it's all like a fluid thing. And
yeah.
I'm not saying I deserve like a cookie for any of this, don't get me wrong, but like that's what this show is. I don't know if people understand that. Like I don't think it's laudable. I think it's fucking dumb. But that's what this show is. What I'm going to do, it's a fucking quarantine. I'm going to hire someone? You fucking kidding me? First of all, the show isn't making a goddamn money.
Yeah. No, man.
I love it. We haven't talked about this. So speaking of which, the Patreon.
Yeah.
So I finally relented, and I decided that I could reconcile doing a Patreon if it was advance access. It was like, I cannot wait to hear this episode, and I will literally pay $1 a month so that I can hear this episode ahead of time.
Right.
I'm like, that's okay by me. That's not a no ad. That's not an ad read. That's not like our news sponsor is Hallmark greeting cards. That's fine, and that doubles at the fact that when someone's like, hey, I want to hear the Alan Lee Johannes interview. Why is it not on my Apple iTunes yet? Or whatever. It's like, got an easy solution for you. $1 a month. Shuts them right up. Because most of them are like, I'll wait. I'm like,
yeah, all right.
Okay. It's $1.
You don't got $1?
It's $1. I'll wait. Oh, okay. So you like it, but you don't $1 like it. All right. So we've set. But I get it, man. I totally get it. But what I like about it is that like it turns those conversations off. Like I don't have to like hear about those anymore, and that's important to me because I don't know. I sound like a cranky fuck, don't I? Like I mean, but like,
no, you're just managing your time.
When I got 9 episodes backlog, and someone wants to hear like one specific one, it's like, great. You want to send me an audio editor?
Right. Or $1.
Yeah, or $1, or literally $1, and you can have the thing you want. Nope. Okay, well, fuck you then. I mean, like,
how you living your life?
Protonic Reversal saying, "Fuck you then." That's the.
Put that on the Patreon, brother. You don't want to pay $1? Fuck
you. But that was the way that I was able to reconcile, and that's something that I labored over that for a long time. But when it's the point of like, I put out in 1 month, I put out like 27 episodes.
Yeah.
And I had people like, hey, I want to hear the such and such. I'm like, well, I want a fucking job. Like, we don't always get what we want. Like, what the, I mean, what the fuck? Like,
right.
Where was I going with that unsolicited rant?
You got a plan.
I did have so the idea there's a level of interest that people would kick in whatever whatever small amount of money that month to support it. That's great. I mean that makes me feel awesome, and that's something where that to me is a lifeline too, where it's an observable metric where I can be like, wow, there's like 80 people that are putting $1 down to hear my bullshit.
Yeah. There's another gauge for you.
Right, and that's good for me as far as just the not letting the way my brain is wired control things in a bad fashion.
Yeah, but knowing that those 80 people are there.
Yeah,
and that doesn't you know there's going to be that's only a portion of the audience.
Right, and that's just the ones that are so motivated or so into it that they're going to throw in money.
Yeah.
Or at one point were so motivated they wanted to hear something that bad.
Yeah.
And either way, you know, I'll fucking take it. Money spends either way. But it's been a long way since, I think I launched it the week that, like, Falco and Dwayne Dennison were both on.
Oh, sure.
I was telling a friend, I was like, yeah, I've almost got enough to buy an expensive coffee, you know. So it's come a long way. And
$4.99.
And I know, I haven't exactly. I don't look at it as like that's a metric of success. That's just something where it's like, okay, this is the level of engagement.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. It just plain old shows you that there is an audience there. Success doesn't really equate to that.
And that's all. I mean, music, this show, all I ever want is to have something where it's sustainable. Like, you know, it's not like I don't mind something being a pit of money and a pit of time, but both of them at the same time is rough.
It can be a little rough, sure.
Like that'll wear on you after a while. After a while, like, okay, And this has never been a money pit, to be clear, but it's definitely been like an effort pit for sure.
Sure. And you have to think about it. Is there something else that I should be doing that maybe better thing to do?
Have you considered doing something people want to hear? Oh, yeah. Hey,
who needs that?
Exactly. Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I had a solid plan. I knew where I was going with all this stuff, and it's just
out the window, man.
All we are is dust in the wind. Well, anyway, I again, it was probably beneath your skill level and certainly your pay grade to be on the show, but I really enjoyed having you on it, and I realized
it was always fun.
It's weird that we've never talked about it, and I guess that's on me. But sorry, I
didn't. I mean,
it wasn't intentional.
It wasn't anything that like I felt like anything hanging in the air. Like when we're, when we see each other, like it's not like, oh, we got one of these days we'll talk about. No, I never worried about it. We can talk about it, but it's not like anything where I'm just like, oh, that subject's got to be breached one of these days, and oh, confrontation. Like, no.
Okay, good. Because it was also like, hey, Josh, you want to drive over to the other side of town, like especially when it's like in the snow or like whatever, to go fucking talk to some dude you've never heard of? Oh yeah, sounds fucking fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, sure.
And you did it, and I appreciate that. And I do feel that you added a lot to the show. And there's certain things that, whether you realize it or not, that certain things that I definitely started. If I didn't learn from you, I started paying more attention to from you being on the show, and I appreciate that.
Cool.
And that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it's not meant as that at all. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna rip Josh off on this. It was more just like, oh, that's an interesting way to approach that. I hadn't thought of that before.
I appreciate that I could leave my mark on the show.
Well, and to me, I also kind of feel like it's something where if you ever did want to come in, like just come in. Well, not now, but
not right now.
I actually forgot for a while because I was too busy changing the temp directories on this so that we don't lose the show.
Yeah, no, there's a little issue going on, but yeah,
So do you have any remembrances or anything that you specifically want to call out, good, bad, or ugly?
Nothing bad. Yeah, I mean, it was always fun. I think the conversation, like, I appreciate it. Obviously, that it's much easier to do interviews over at a distance. But it was always fun when we had people in the studio.
Yeah.
And the dynamic just is so much better when that happens.
Yeah, there were some really fun ones, and it's different, man. I feel like it's always a little bit more clinical when you're. I mean, it's better when you can actually see someone rather than just like when you're just on the phone, But it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Can you tell from California?
Dude. But the flow of conversation is just different.
Yeah.
Whereas, you might be having to, if you're on the phone, you might not be having the best fidelity. You have to listen kind of closely, and it doesn't allow you to maybe think ahead as much.
Yeah, it's a different kind of way to read social cues and stuff. It's completely different. Like totally.
Yeah, so that was always fun. I mean, and it was always it was either it was Tim or Keith Brammer or Foxface or Word.
Brammer episode, I forgot about. That was a good one.
That was a fun one. Yeah.
That's one that I think that like a bunch of new fans of the show should go back and check out, because that was if you are remotely interested in DeCroydson, like that is like one of the better treasure troves of information I think you could find. Like I don't know the one fellow's writing the book or whatever, but I guess it'll eventually be that. But until then.
Yeah, and Keith's he's full of stories and very engaging person to talk to. So it's
that was great. That was Well, yeah, and like I said, it's like I felt like I knew what the show was, and then like it kind of turned a little bit into something else, and turned to something a little deeper and a little more important. And that's I don't take that lightly at all. Like I get it when people are like, "Oh, that's not my thing." Like, okay, fine. So if I sat around yelling about what wasn't my thing, we'd be here all day. But
precisely.
But like I said, like why do you do what you do? I like the long answers. I like the short answers, serious ones, the funny ones. Like I like the fact it's never wrong, and I like the fact that it's almost all of them, or I don't know how to do anything else, and then you like wait, and then you hear the real answer, and that's that's awesome too. And it's it isn't the explicit reason for being necessarily, but it is what the show's always about. I mean, I was just too dense to realize that's what the show was about. even when it was
forming around.
No. I was just like, I'm trying to do the kind of show I'd want to hear. Is really how it started.
Yeah.
And then it achieved a different meaning later on, and I didn't really think too much about it. Probably because I was too busy working about technical difficulties of some kind, like, why is this shorting out? What the fuck's going on here?
Which channel is shit?
Is it 6 or 7? Why isn't the mute button working?
I don't know. When you had that thing wired, I'm just like, I am no help to you, my friend.
Yeah, just
nothing.
The whole thing's like just flat out Battlestar Galactica. It's falling apart at the seams. Like, we go live in like a minute and a half. Fuck. Which I feel like maybe on the air, but I feel like that's never been shown in a television show or anything. Just like the bad news bears of radio kind of situation.
Yeah, on the air probably gets closest.
But on the air is its own thing, and we love on the air. But that's I don't know. It's I don't know, man. Shit's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's gonna keep being crazy for the moment.
It is, and I got this. That's the thing, and some people seem to get something out of it. And that's cool. I guess any parting thoughts? Any parting words of wisdom and peace to the world?
as we often like to say, don't let your meat loaf. Can't remember where I got that from. It's good.
Home of the Protonic Reversal.
Keep it up, man. You've gotten some of the best guests you've ever had in the last few months, and it's incredible. Like James Williamson, for fuck's sake, you're kidding me.
Yeah, man,
crazy.
Yeah, and Jerry Casale, and then he invited himself back.
Yeah, holy
shit.
What
am I living in? That's and then I had people be like, "That's the best Devo interview I've ever heard." There are like people that would know. I'm like, Well, I'm a huge nerd about him and listening to him my entire life, so I basically been preparing for it for 42 years.
Right. You're welcome.
43 years, sorry. Yeah, but well, thank you. Yeah, I mean Tony Visconti, right? Like,
yeah.
Fuck.
God, what an amazing guy. Someone else who's full of stories. My God.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't take any of it lightly, but I also. It's not happenstance. It's not accidental. Everything is where it's supposed to be, and it is what it is meant to be. So it's like, yeah, I'm the only one that can short sell it.
And you do every time.
But it's nice to know that it's doing some good for people, because it certainly has kept me afloat.
Good. Well, and that leads me into a little question.
Oh.
Gotta ask you.
Yeah. That's we've never done this.
We've never done this. I can't believe it.
And I actually didn't prepare for it at all. So this is
good.
This puts me on the same level as the guests.
We'll see how it goes. Conan?
That's every show, by the way. Well, we'll see how this goes.
That's very true. All right. Why do you do what you do?
So music has, in no small part, shaped my entire identity and my life. Mostly in a positive way. Has set me on a course to be friends with who I'm friends with, to know the people that I know, formed lasting relationships, both romantic and less romantic, and has become a foundational part of my identity, to the point that not being able to play music has been like losing a non-vestigial limb. And one of the reasons why is because before I found music, and specifically the kind of music that I found, I was into things. I was into, science fiction, comic books, like whatever. I was into those things, and that was fine. I was just, some kid that was into those things. But I found my purpose and I found my tribe with the music that I found, and the specific kind of music. And for me, because it's such a huge part of my world and how I view everything within the world, I've always looked at it as a give and take. You take turns on stage. You're watching this band play, then they're watching you. There's other things than just putting things out there. Come from the world of like zines and stuff along those lines. There's lots of ways to participate, but I come at everything from the position of a fan. I like things. I still listen to new music all the time, constantly. And I'm very opinionated about it, but I still love finding new bands, but then also discovering old bands. Somebody the other day, I was just on an unsolicited rant about Sweet and how great Sweet was and how interesting they were, and all these pop-up video factoids about them. And someone's like, "We should write a book on that." I'm like, I don't know who the fuck would be looking for that, but sure. But the point of fact is that it's a gigantic part of my life. So when it comes time for music, for my own music, as well as for the show, it really comes down to something I talked about like years and years ago, which is just returning some small amount of the ass kicking that music has given me. Meaning that if I can provide some solace in a dark time for people, whether it's just hearing stories from someone they admire, respect, they're in a similar situation and got through it, or writing a song that connects with someone and makes someone want to live another day, or go do something, go to the gym, take out the garbage, whatever. Anything like that. I just look at it like it's an ecosystem. I don't understand when people look at it from the perspective of, and as I'm saying this, I'm doing the long-winded thing, by the way. But I don't understand when people don't look at it like an ecosystem. Everything, you get what you give. And I've given everything I have to music in all the various ways that I can. And the reason why I do it is because it's given me everything as well. Which is pretty good for an unrehearsed answer.
Yeah.
I think.
Makes sense to me, man.
I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
Sounds like you.
Sounds in the least shocking revelation of Protonic Reversal history. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thanks for having me, man.
Being a part of the show and being a good human being and a good dude and making good music yourself and creating cool things.
Thank you.
We're going to get through this.
Yeah. Yes, we are. We'll see what happens to the other end, but we'll be through it.
The misplaced optimism of the doomed. All right, brother. Take care.
Yep.
There he goes, Mr. Josh Davis, asking me the why do you do what you do question. And thus begins the final segment of the show, which is a montage. It's a montage, everybody, of various people on the show answering the question. So, I don't know. Let's try this out. Here goes. Why do you do what you do? Protonic Reversal, ProtonicReversal.com, on all the normal things. You know the frickin' drill. Anyway, why do you do what you do? I ask one question at the end of all these things, and it's just, why do you do what you do?
Well, when I started out, I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't, I was not trained to do anything, really. I had never really had many jobs except for really menial jobs. And so I had no skills other than how I could play guitar. Only thing was the way that I played, almost nobody wanted me in a band because I,
fill about space. Yeah.
who could possibly want a guitar player like that? And it turned out that the only guy that wanted one was crazy too, and that was Iggy. And so then, my style actually complemented his style very well. And so, I developed that, and I think I made a mark for myself right out of the gate. And unbeknownst to me, really, I just did what I did.
Right? Yeah, you're not thinking about legacy when you're trying to tear it up, right?
No, although we were quite delusional. I think we actually thought that we were going to make hit records. That we thought Raw Power was going to be a hit record, and it was like, what? Nobody wanted that record, and it did become a hit record actually, but 30 years later.
Yeah, in the 90s.
I don't know how not to. I guess. I mean, I didn't do my homework for that question. Yeah, I can't imagine a life where, I don't know. I can't imagine a life without it. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't need to be an essay question, so that's
yeah. Good, because that was a shitty answer. But I don't know how to articulate it. I mean, it's been.
You don't have to. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just it is what it is. I have no clue what life would be like without creative outlets like we've discovered.
It keeps me, makes me happy, keeps me alive. That's what it saved me originally. I have to say, like if we're talking about drums specifically. That was my release. That's where I discovered my power, and it's been my longest relationship, I have to say, besides being a parent. So, and it's my safe place, so that's why.
I just love making music. I don't know what else to say. It keeps me happy. It keeps me sane.
Because I have no other choice. I think I was pretty much aware of this by the time I was 4, because my best moments were involved music floating through the house and the mystery of seeing my uncle play the instruments. And that's the happiest I felt was when music was happening. So I thought, I feel most connected and most alive and most anxiety free and freaking out about the state of the world. Because I was kind of a sensitive kid. So, I'm one of those panic attack at 7 kind of guys, So, yeah, music was it. I mean, it's a long answer, but yeah, music is it. I do it because it's the only way I know how to connect to the best aspect of being alive.
The heroin. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, fantastic.
No, I know there's an opioid crisis, and I work every day to help people get off drugs. So that's always kind of my joke that nobody ever laughs at. But, you have the dying, the regrets of the dying, right? Where I should have spent more time with family. I should have pursued my dreams. I should have spent more time playing. I literally will never have any of those regrets because I live such a life well lived. But my tombstone might have to say I should have done more heroin.
I mean, the way I'm taking the question is like, why do I, why am I a musician? And I know that that's not necessarily what the question entails, but being a musician was never a career choice. It was just by default I had to because number one, it was the only thing I liked. It was like the only thing I was interested in. And I'd had some shitty jobs, but I was actually making more money from playing music. So it was like a financial, it made more sense. Like I could get off food stamps if I, if I played music. So it was like, I never chose to be a musician. It was just like, that was all I ever, it's all I did. And it was all I ever wanted to do. And then when I realized I could make somewhat of a living from it, I was like, well, I should just do this full time. And then after that, it was like when, I really did go full time. And, it was early 90s, I think, when I was, it wasn't a decision to be a musician, but when I was a kid, when I got my first guitar, I didn't talk to people. I would practice 9 hours a day, every day. And to me, that was just enough to get by. If I could play more, I would have. I feel like it's, I do what I do is because I need to breathe, I need to eat and I need water. So and I need music. So that's pretty much why I do what I do. I guess that's a long-winded answer.
It's fine. This is a long-winded show.
I sometimes I ask myself the same. Music can be, the music world can be incredibly frustrating, and anybody who plays music or records music or is involved in music in any way at some point will ask themselves, why the hell am I doing this? It's incredibly difficult. There's no money in it, and it's a lot of work, and I'm sure so many people know exactly what I'm talking about. But what will happen with me is that once a year, maybe I'll work with somebody that is so incredible, or somebody like Matt, where we have that instant connection, or in the case of recently, I made a record with an artist, Matt Costa, and we just hit it off in such an incredible way. I feel like that's why I do this. But it isn't always at that level. Sometimes it's just going to see some show and I don't even know who's playing. There's, some of my friends' bands are playing, and I'll just see an amazing band and people are having a good time. And I think, okay, that's why I'm doing it. Because, music really speaks to people in a way beyond any other sort of art, I think. And this is not to downplay other arts, because I'm a huge fan of all the arts and visual arts too. But there's something about music that's just that instant visceral connection that is something really wonderful,
Oh, why do I do what I do? Because I'm not smart enough to do anything else.
If I didn't play music, I seriously, I think I would feel incomplete. I think I was really drawn to it as a very young child. I started getting my first lessons when I was about eight, I think. But I was actually, my mum tells me I was banging on drums and stuff when I was 4, like toy ones and stuff. And then I was really, the whole thing of the Beatles and, the idea of there being a band that's like this gang where you're all in it together and all that kind of stuff. I'm still really incredibly down on the current trend for people to be in 8 or 10 different bands at once. I think you've got to dedicate your heart and your soul and every piece of your waking day and your thought processes to the music that you're making at that point in time. I think that if you it doesn't seem real to me. I reckon if you're in a band, it's almost like being in a gang. You should have a matching jackets with the name on the back, and you should exchange blood through cuts on your wrists and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
It's got to be almost that mentality. You're going to be a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. So that's why I do it. I don't want to ever stop. I've had friends say to me, I'm never going to stop doing this. I'll be sitting on a rocking chair on my front porch playing my blues guitar. And I go, no, hang on. How come you're doing that corporate job and driving that BMW and you sold all your guitars? What happened, And I've been fortunate that I've been able to continue to play, and I still get an awesome charge out of someone turning me on to a new band and then me liking their record or going and seeing. I went and saw Starcrawler. I thought, this is great, fuck, they're going off on stage. They're absolutely manic. The chick is insane. The guitar player is blistering. And they did 45 minutes of I wasn't bored for a second. And I'm going, I haven't seen that for a while. I'm glad it's still out there. So, that made me happy for a few moments. There's that other band I think that's playing around in America at the moment, Amel and the Sniffers. They're from Melbourne. It's okay. It's very thrashy and very fun and very irreverent, but people are drinking beer and jumping around. It's great. It's great.
That sounds like a hard question.
You can think about it.
I mean, that's the problem. I mean, the Poster Children is a live band. I mean, I've come to terms with that. I've never been completely happy with our recorded output. Daisy Chain Reaction is pretty good. I'm not the person to ask. It's hard to think about the band without a live component. And to me, the records, I like making records. I don't know if the rest of the band really likes it that much.
Okay, so I mean, you're continuing your musical career as Thoughts Detecting Machine, but we also have this. I mean, I feel like there's one of the big things for me in Poster Children was the dissemination of energy. I don't know a better way to put it. No. Like how to empower people or to get people to think, to get people to feel like they can do stuff, or come on, if we can do this, if we can create, you can create too, and to teach people and to sort of connect people. And so with your lyrics, you're kind of teaching, you're pontificating to people and stuff like that. And so now we're teachers. I'm happy that we're professors and we're able to teach people all the time. And I'm teaching music business. Rick teaches music business sometimes for me also. We're teaching computer programming. We're teaching communication with digital technology, right? But also, we have our podcasts, and so we're still able to create. I feel like with the podcast, it's kind of the same energy that we had and the same thing going on that we had in the van. What's missing is we're not reading as many books, I think, and having as many different wild experiences as we used to before we had kids and before we were trapped in this house with the quarantine, maybe. But maybe I've forgotten that, and it was kind of dumb back then too, But I feel like that's where our creativity is right now. I mean, that's another thread at least of our creativity.
Yeah. I think I'm a little different than you. You know, I like the creative part of it, or actually creating music. Yeah. So I mean, there was some downtime in there. What, like, I don't know, 2007.
11 years?
Yeah. No. But I tried to stop doing this kind of stuff and writing songs and playing music and recording music, and it didn't work. So it's something I do. Yeah. And so for me, it's almost, it's not resignation. It's just kind of an acceptance that it's part of my life, and it's something I do. And it never started out as something that was going to be a career or defining part of my life. And so, but it is not a career, but well, I guess it was, or is kind of, but it's a defining part of my life, and it's something I do to make myself. And again, you know this. It doesn't necessarily make me happy all the time. It does. It never makes a lot of. I do.
I don't know what part of it makes you happy. Well, see, okay, so whereas you love the creative part of it, I love the performative part of it. And so I'm continuing. I think that's what capoeira is to me, or martial arts, taekwondo and stuff like that. But especially capoeira is performance, fighting with music. And so I think that's why I keep practicing that. And like you, it doesn't give me a lot of pleasure. It's a struggle all the time. It's horrible.
But to me, that's reality. I mean, there is a lot of messaging in the world, and I see this in our students sometimes. It's like, if it's not fun, if it's not giving you joy right at this moment, it's not good. And it's like, no, even the things that, it's like, oh, I got to play music, and I got to play music for a living, but did that mean that I was the happiest person on earth? No, I was pretty happy, but it was like, there was lots of, it's a pain in the ass also. It's like, there's nothing that's 100% fulfilling, right?
Life is suffering.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Because I don't know any other way to be. That's as honest as I can answer it to you.
Yeah, well, It made me. It made me do it. You know, something animated in me. You know, it did. It made me do it. And, you know, if it made me do something else, I would have done that. But it made me do this. And, you know, I'm my God, I'm quite grateful for that. And I'm certainly grateful that anybody turns up. Yeah, but it made me do it. That's it.
Well, the court order says I have to do. It was either 25 years musical community service or jail, and I'd heard terrible things about jail. So I have. Well, I guess I'm done with the community service now. So I guess I just don't know any other life now. I guess it's like I've gotten out of prison. And I just, you know, I kind of want to go back because I just can't hack it in the outside world.
Oh, man. That's heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff, Conan.
Because when I don't, I end up on heroin. You know, it's like, I don't know what else to do. It's all I've ever done, you know? And, like, the one time I did take a break, I ended up on heroin, you know? So it's like, I mean, that's not why, but you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's all I know. Like, you know, when I got clean and shit, like I tried to get jobs and stuff, but it's like, I'm just not really qualified for anything. I go work at Starbucks, but this is kind of all I got.
You're talking about that
know,
like
so
cat
it's like-
hotels don't exist, by the way, but
Dude, yeah. Oh no, I worked at a dog hotel.
oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I picked up dog shit from fucking 6 a.m. to like noon every day for like fucking 3 months. Tell me that's not humbling.
I was gonna say that'll put you right in your place.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
yeah. But yeah, this is all I got, dude. You know, it's like, so yeah, I just don't stop working. It's like, cause I feel like grateful that like anyone gives a fuck about what I do. So I feel really lucky to be where I'm at. And, yeah, man, it's like, it feels like a blessing every day, you know, even though it's like hard as fuck, you know, it's really hard to be an artist, not to like complain, but you know, it's like, I take this over or not having a job I don't like, you know?
Because I believe very deeply in people finding ways to express themselves honestly and share it with other people. And because it's what I was built to do.
This isn't about you have all the power and I have no power. This isn't about any of that. This is about this pursuit and opportunity and you know, opening yourself up.
Yeah.
And so that's why every time I think like, fuck it, I want to shut it down, I go, wait, no.
Actually,
this is remain.
Yeah.
I say remain open until the next. You know what I mean? Like let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And that's why the whole, you know, that idea of the one day at a time thing is the idea of like let's just focus on what's in front of us. It's not going to take anything away from the past, and it's not going to affect anything in the future negatively. It's going to just allow you opportunity to make this decision when you feel as though it's again an authentic thing, a real thing. You have a real connection to it.
I do what I do now, not as an identity, but using my skill set to be helpful and of service to others and try and create something positive with all this thing that I've spent so much time working on and trying to help people reach their vision. Like in the studio, I try and demystify the studio process.
Right.
I'm very open about how I do things. If someone's interested in what I do, whether it is music-wise, recording-wise, if anyone has any questions about spirituality or recovery from drugs and alcohol, I'm very open with sharing that sort of stuff. I really would like to create positivity, and again, this sounds hippie and new age, but just like, you know, even in the most vicious, hateful music you might do, you know, let me help you get there. Or if you want to make something like, you know, helps the world, you know, like destroys the pandemic and makes everyone fall in love and never feel alone again, you know?
Right.
So, you know, I'm trying to use all my experience to bring something positive here.
Well, so there's a couple of parts to my answer.
By all means, please.
So what I was as a up until 28 years old, I guess, was a drummer. If you said, what do you do? I'm a drummer. I've got my sticks. Let's go, Then I was a label owner and a studio cat and a teacher and an author and a dad, husband. I built a few studios as well. I've challenged myself with that stuff. So I guess I try and stay busy and challenged. It delights me to be surprised by stuff. It would be easy to say, I'm doing these screen printing bags to help. I'm just trying to help people. But the truth is, I'm loving the equations of help, like how much it doesn't take me much work. It takes me some imagination and some ideas to help somebody materially get through a shit week. And I think then that delights me that I'm teaching music business, but I'm really teaching brain stretching and pivoting and creativity and showing people the value of these solutions. Somebody at Cisco said a creative problem-solving mindset is the new job security. And that has never been more true. So that learning, one of the reasons I'm so delighted when I learn something is like, oh, this is going to make a fucking great class that will surprise the students. So that's why I do what I do. I'm just trying to be a kid in a sandpit and get that flow and lose myself in that creativity in those moments and then pass it along.
Because of crippling depression and anxiety.
Why do I do what I do? It's because that's what I am. I am what I am, said Popeye. No, I do it because it brings joy to my heart. I write very almost depressing music for a lot of people. Well, for myself, rather. I don't write for a lot of people. Who knows if anybody's listening? But yeah, it's because it brings immense joy to my life, my heart. And I love dissonant chords and, putting shit together that sounds horrendous, let's say.
I don't know. I think I was just born this way. I was just meant to fucking play drums and skate. And I don't know. It's just what I feel. It feels right.
Fuck, I don't know. Why do you jerk off? Because it feels good. I don't fucking know. I don't think about this shit. I just do it.
It's really funny because I see there's so many different motivations you can kind of have for doing whatever you call it, that we're doing. But for me personally, it's literally just having fun with my friends and expressing myself, even if it's not good or amazing. It's just a really good way to kind of get my I don't know. It just kind of helps me release all my anxiety, and it's kind of cool to have a small niche community. I'm glad I never wanted to make money or do anything with music except for just have a good time, because it kind of keeps you focused on what matters. And I would say that, and just local DIY punk Chicago is just kind of my life. I saw my first show like that when I was 16, and I've been obsessed and addicted to it ever since. And I just want to say, shout out Reed's Local, who always let us do awesome shows there. They always treat touring bands great.
Yeah,
it's our bar that we go to whenever we're not
Local.
playing music together. We just go drink there. So
right.
Same. Just blowing off steam of a work week or what relationship problems or whatever the case may be. Just being able to do that and do it with some of my best friends. It's the reason that I play in a bunch of different bands. I need that outlet. Also, I realize I'm not very good at practicing on my own, so so I join bands so I can at least play my instrument twice a week, at the very least.
Right.
Because they don't know how to do anything else. No, it's probably just because it's it's the only thing I feel extremely passionate about. It makes me happy. I definitely feel the most calm I kind of feel like the most at home when I'm making music in this setting, and I feel that it's just kind of what I want to do with the rest of my life is make music, tour, make records, and share it with two people that I enjoy being around.
Because I'm good at it. That was another Flannery O'Connor quote, by the way.
I don't know. I can only say the way I started it. When I grew up in the States. My father was in the Army, and I changed school every year, and I had this terrible last name to be Chota that nobody could pronounce, and I wore glasses, and I was a total weirdo, and I just, it was just impossible for me in any way not to be the weirdo that everybody kind of doesn't want to talk to and that doesn't know how to communicate. And at one point I noticed that the only way I can communicate is by music or by art. And then I started doing that, and it's kind of been that way for me ever since. It's like the way I can communicate. And so it's kind of again that energy exchange or interchange or whatever that, we as human beings can give each other, and that's the way I can do it.
I've been really considering that for the past few days. I mean, for the past few years, and in fact, I love what I do. It has ups and downs. I'm good at it. I'm also good at other things. I'm not afraid to do other things, even things outside of my comfort zone. But at the end of the day, I think life is short, and you should follow the things that make you happiest. And this makes me very happy. I think I am affecting some people and able to do that, and so that means a lot to me. Yeah. I mean, I love what I do, and I think life should be spent doing what you love.
But another thing that's helpful is to just return to the reasons why you're doing music in the first place. Just looking at that and being like, hey, why do I actually do this? Am I doing this so I can be playing a bunch of shows? I mean, yeah, that's one of the reasons. But 6 years ago, I never would have thought that I'd be touring and doing all this stuff. And having, living my life the way I want to live it. I never thought that would be something I'd get to experience. And so, I'm grateful for the time I have had on the road. And then also, returning 6 years ago to, why do we do music? We write it for ourselves in our bedroom, to cope with our lives. That's what we do.
I'd say two things, really. The people. There's two universes that I feel really at home in, and underground art is one of them. Underground touring bands, particularly from that era, are some of my best friends and some of the most comfortable I've ever been in my skin, I don't necessarily consider. I'm very social on the surface, but that world has always made me feel at home. And then the kind of the work. I like the work, and I like to work. In fact, I just shipped a game 2 weeks ago, and I was working 100-hour weeks for 3 months, and I just I love it. And so, but the nice thing is on the flip side, when you're not doing that part of the work, your work is listening to records and reading comic books and all the shit that I love to do anyway. So, it's just good all the way around. And honestly, I think it's kind of the most noble thing humans do, other than maybe the thing that most people think of as noble, which is fixing the shit that humans fuck up for each other, and which is ostensibly more noble, but you got to look at the source of where that nobility comes from. Whereas I think making stuff and trying to bring, create more and make more, beauty in the world that doesn't already exist is a good pursuit.
I was born to do it. I don't know. I just have my whole life, I've just loved music. Music for me is a way to sort of change my own reality.
As far as I can tell, I've got no other choices.
Or you could take that however you want. I mean, in other words, it's what I have to do.
Right.
Man, because I don't know any better. Honestly, I am the worst schlemiel on the planet. Like, life just happens to me, you know? I wish I had a better answer, and I wouldn't have been comfortable admitting that. And now that I'm all old and just don't care anymore, I can confess it. But I don't plan. My life is not planned at all. I've been lucky on so many counts, starting with just, you know, I won't lie, white privilege has been great to me.
That'd be an amazing song title.
I want to try it. Oh my, it'd be like a country song or something.
My privilege
oh my God.
is good to me.
Yeah, like that's about as like that would be the most culturally insensitive song. But yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. I've been so lucky, and it's gone beyond just that. It's gone beyond just whatever demographic I've been born into. Like, I've been lucky so many times over, and it's honestly, I have ridden that wave, you know, and still kind of continue to. So it's just been, I wish I could say I've engineered my success, but I really haven't. I've just kind of stumbled into it, and I'm grateful.
Lie, but I wish I could say it.
You're absolutely, that's accurate as can be. You know, I am very aware of it and grateful for it, and I try to share it whenever applicable and possible. You know,
I do what I do because I have to, and I have to because I can.
That's very zen of you. I like that.
So there you go. Yes, that's the truth, you know. I do this because I have to, and I have to because I can.
And Memphis in June, I mean, King was killed in April, but that's what he's talking about, you know. So you can take these bits of it and you realize he's just setting you up to punch you in the face, you know. He's making you think it's just this litany of stuff that doesn't mean anything, but then there'll be a thing where he gets the knife into you. But in the end, I think he kind of admits through the format of the song and the way it unspools, that it might not mean anything. What he's doing might not really amount to anything. It might not change anything in the world. Right. And that's something I think as an artist you have to wrestle with every day, you know, is that you do this stuff, and this is a depressing way to end maybe. You do this stuff, and what's the net effect of it? It might be zero, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But if you can bring some relief to people, if you can bring some like feelings of joy or abandonment to them, then maybe it is worth something. Maybe saying it's not worth anything is like saying sex isn't worth anything, you know, or eating good food isn't worth anything. You know, experiences are really what we have in life. And so if you can improve the quality of someone's life experience in some way, then maybe what you did was kind of worth doing after all. So that's not why I do what I do. I do what I do because it makes me feel good, you know, and the fact that it has an effect on other people is really great. I like that. But that's honestly kind of incidental.
I've been really considering that for the past few days. I mean, for the past few years, and in fact, I love what I do. It has ups and downs. I'm good at it. I'm also good at other things. I'm not afraid to do other things, even things outside of my comfort zone. But at the end of the day, I think life is short, and you should follow the things that make you happiest. And this makes me very happy. I think I am affecting some people and able to do that, and so that means a lot to me. Yeah. I mean, I love what I do, and I think life should be spent doing what you love.
More than anything, I think it's a combination of to escape boredom and to get attention. I think it's that simple. And I think that for most musicians, it's that. Whether with attention comes other things. And that was more like when you're young. And like when I was a younger person, even teenager, like young man, even before being what even would be a young man, like a teenager, you're not really a man yet.
You're not a boy, but you're not a man. But you want attention. You want everything that goes with it. You want the girls or boys, if you're into that, whatever. You want the goods. You want the status. You want all those things. And I was no different than anyone else. You wanted to be known for being good at something. You wanted to be appreciated. You wanted to have your craft and your artistic integrity be respected. A quest for respect. Whether people admit it to themselves or not, I think that's as big a part of it as any for anyone. Whether it's me or Miles Davis or St. Vincent or whoever, I think that is what drives people. And the other part is just escaping boredom, the boredom of reality. And early on, I just noticed, like with my parents, I grew up in a fairly normal middle-class home. My parents had jobs. They came home at night. They looked after us. We lived in a house. They drove cars. We had a nice, normal, middle-class thing. We went to schools. We went to public school. We always had decent clothes. My lunchbox always had a sandwich in it. It wasn't fancy. We weren't, they had to watch money. I would overhear them arguing about money. Did you write that check? I told you to wait. Don't write any checks this week, that kind of thing. But we were never poor. But at the same time, I saw that they worked at jobs, them and everyone around us, all my neighbors, relatives, they worked jobs they didn't like. In the Detroit area, it was various, industrial or transportation-related jobs. My mom was a secretary, teacher's aide. Work your lives away at jobs you don't like just to find yourself laid off. In my parents' case, like in Michigan in the 80s, when unemployment was so high and the recession was so bad, the Reagan years, the years of what did they call that? The misery index, inflation times unemployment. The misery. And Michigan was off the hook. So I saw people work their lives away at jobs they didn't like with people they didn't like, putting their dreams on hold for the good of their families, and then just to find themselves high and dry, made redundant. And I thought, I'm going to do everything I can to not have that happen to me, because it seems like no matter what else, anything's going to be better than that. And so for me, it was just, I had to escape that. And for the most part, I did it. I'm not a rich rock star by any means, but I made a decent living I was a professional musician for at least 25 years and managed to save a little money. I met my wife through music, made a lot of friends, etc. And, so now I still do some music, but I work, a decent job with people I like. I've got a few more years where I have to work, and I can actually plan on retiring at some point in a few more years, which is unusual, isn't necessarily a common thing these days.
Yeah, for sure.
But as much as anything, you want to be noticed, and just to not escape the boring, the normal reality of the 20th century post-industrial landscape.
Because the alternative is worse.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've been listening to your show a bit, so I knew that you were going to ask this, and I don't know if I maybe had already mentioned this to you before, but it's been really nice for me to hear you ask this of people particularly people like Andy from Aquarius, who, I never met Andy, but I still haven't met him, but he was a huge supporter of my band long before Dead. And Aquarius, he used to buy our stuff, and it's really cool to hear everyone almost kind of has the same answer, and it makes you feel like, oh, good, I'm not,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me. But interestingly enough, I have asked that same question of people that I've interviewed and been met with real, animosity, dude, don't fucking pull the strings, don't ask me something that personal. So it's really nice to hear that people have been answering it. It's kind of the same answer for me as what most people have been saying, which is, I just have to do it. And it's often to a great cost in other areas. So whether that be, having a career or having a house that you own and don't rent, or or having a relationship. It's tested relationships and it's ended them. But I would say I would just keep doing it while the while the good outweighs the bad. That's really what I just try and do. I just try and balance, because I've never, I could probably play 300 shows in a year and I would still want to play more. I could be in the studio, every day for a year and I would still want to go back. Like, for me, I just can't really get enough of it. And it's just a matter of how do I actually make it sustainable, given that my love of music, exceeds the amount that so far we can, we can't make it this isn't our living,
Right.
So, so we got to go to work, and do what we have to do to make it work. And sometimes that feels like it isn't worth it, but then I just feel very, very lucky. I know this is a really long answer, I'm sorry, but I've seen people on, during this crazy fucking pandemic, I've seen people on social media talking about how bored they are. and that's, yeah. I literally have not been bored since I picked up a pair of drumsticks. And I'm not, I've not ever been bored. Like, if I've got to wait 10 hours for a delayed plane or something, yeah, it might be inconvenient and I might get shitty and I'm like, oh, I'm hungry and I wish I could have a shower or whatever. But I've never, ever been bored, because I'm just constantly, Jason and I will text each other about we basically have the same ideas for every song we write. So that's why the songwriting's so easy, and it will literally be things like, hey, don't you reckon that bit should go for 5 bars instead of 8? And he's like, yeah, I was just texting you that, and that's just like, I just feel really lucky to have that, like the joy that playing music brings. So that's why I do it, because I can't, nothing else feels as good, as playing music. So that's it. Yeah.
I don't know any other way to be, I don't think. I get a lot of joy from, the reason A Minor Forest broke up is because it wasn't fun anymore. And like, music was not making me happy, and music is so important to me that I never wanted to get to a point where I didn't simply get joy from music. Like that was like critical for my sort of mental well-being. And even at Aquarius, there were times where I'm like, at some point, like, the business of music is going to become overwhelming. And if that happens, I will quit instantly, because I never want to lose my sort of like unfettered, like wide-eyed love of music and discovery and all that stuff. And I think I've been really lucky, even at my new job. Like, a big part of my new job is helping independent artists do what they do, and being at this huge corporation and having that be my job is really lucky. And I guess I just love beauty, I guess. Like, I love the beauty of music. I love the beauty of art. I love the beauty of sound. I like making it, and I like sharing it, and I like being exposed to other people's souls through their art. And I don't think I know any other way to live. If that makes sense.
Well, at this point, I'm a professional musician. I've been making my living playing music since 1988. I could not be more happy about that. I play with two of the best musicians on earth, I think, and they make me better. And I wake up every single day. I can't wait to do that stuff. I spend 70% of my waking hours involved in somehow deciding or music in one way or another, whether it's a business of it or whether it's playing it. And it's what it's what I do. I've been doing it since 1988. I can't imagine it any other way. And I have to go back to a Bob Dylan quote, which is, they ask him, you're in your 70s. You're in your 70s. Why are you still touring? Why are you still doing this? He goes, because that's the deal I made.
In our case, I would say that a lot of things that might normally be considered risky in career moves have, for some reason, the exact opposite ended up being good for us. Like I think it's been helpful for us to take a stand on things. I think it's been helpful for us to not settle on one style, but to constantly, to slowly have built up an audience that likes to be surprised by what we do next. And so that I think that sort of like weird opposite model has worked for us for some reason, and I'm really happy about it.
Well, ever since I was about 5, all I've ever wanted to do was play guitar in a rock band. And literally, once I got over wanting to be a cowboy, that's just,
I shouldn't laugh.
yeah, no, I mean, since I was a little kid,
Yeah.
But honestly, I got bit by that bug real early, and my parents are both great music lovers, and that was very much a part of my upbringing, particularly when I was really little. That's what my dad and I did instead of playing catch.
Right.
Was listen to records, and so I just literally by the time I was 7 years old, I was that's what I want to do. And not to be all my calling and my art or whatever, but it's
it's okay.
I mean, I think anybody
As long as you don't say it in that
like,
voice, I'll kick you right off the show if you say it in that voice for real. But
but it's can you imagine you're a lifer? Can you imagine not doing it?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to.
What would be the point?
Right. That's
Sex
Pistols talked about no future. That's no future, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't have a family. I don't have a career. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have children. I don't have any of that stuff. This is what I have instead of all of that stuff because that's what I want. It's that's when I feel okay, and it's fun. And I mean, honestly, it's such a part of who I am, and has been since I was a little kid. Why I do it's not even a question, or if I'm going to do it. It's just how am I going to figure out how to do it today?
Right.
There's a great quote from Frank Zappa in his book, and I'm sure I'm getting this screwed up, but it was just without the arts to decorate time, life is nothing but deadlines and bills that have to be paid.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, seriously, I don't know, and again, not to be melodramatic or whatever, but what the fuck else would I have to live for? I mean, really,
yeah, no, I
don't know. I mean, I tried college. I tried having real jobs. I've tried this and I tried that, and I just fucking hated it. I mean, I can't even fake it for money. I just can't. So yeah, I do what I do because I can't imagine doing anything else, and I'm not really qualified for anything else either. So that works out good.
Well, it's just kind of like when people ask me what kind of bass player I am. I say I'm D. Boone's bass player. I think the momentum of playing with him as a boy is just keep shoving me and doing what I'm doing. It's weird. Part of it's mystery, but part of it's building on the stuff. Like we were talking about links in the chain, but not a chain that binds you. It's just some trippy connects. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm on a trajectory in a way. I got thrown into this momentum situation, but I'm not unaware. Right. And so I'm looking for teachers. I'm really convinced everybody's got something to teach me if I just keep my fucking mind open enough. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Trying to keep the fucking mind open.
I play music because it's the only thing I'm any good at. And, it's the one thing I really enjoy and love doing. And everything else, I don't know. I just do it to stay alive and love. I love my family and just want to be productive and busy. And so I just that's why I do it. I'm just doing the doings I do.
Do I do it? It gives me pleasure, and when I don't do it, I feel a little weird, a little sick, and so there you go. I don't know. I don't have anything lofty to say about it. I get embarrassed or whatever and think I shouldn't even be doing this. This is ridiculous. But then I don't feel right if I'm not doing it. So I just keep my head down and keep going. I'm really lucky that anyone listens to this shit. If being in Tomahawk and the Melvins and the Cows helps me get ears to listen to this music, great. I just do it and I do it and I try not to, I don't know. What can I do? What am I going to do?
I don't know. It's congenital. For me personally, I kind of, it's sort of, I can't do anything else kind of thing. I've always been more interested in music than most of the time. So yeah, that'd be why. It's weird. Yeah.
Why do I do what I do? Because I go nuts if I don't do it. I'm not a pleasant person to be around. So
Brutal
I'm
truth.
doing y'all a favor.
Beautiful.
Because it's too late to do anything else.
Have no idea, really. It's just love, I guess. It's just the love of music. Always loved it since I was a little kid, and I don't know. That's the central, basic fact of it.
Because of the way music makes me feel, and I want to infect others with that feeling.
Why do I do what I do?
Yes.
That's a really, really interesting question. Largely, I think because I kind of have to. I feel like there's certain things that people do, myself, just speaking specifically for myself, that if I didn't make music or make artwork, I would probably become somewhat boring and tedious to myself, and I would feel like I would sort of just like kind of lose a little bit of whatever it is that sort of kind of just makes me feel better. I feel like that's just important, and it makes me good for the people that care, that I care about and that care about me. If I didn't make music or artwork, my wife would just want me to probably go do something else or just leave me. I don't know. I become boring.
Take up woodworking or something, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's a craft. There's some craft there, but no, more like more just like I just don't want to be. I just feel like it's always been sort of something that's been in me that I've just had no control over. I just always felt like I've always had to sort of kind of dig out some cerebral sort of expression, some sort of relationship from what is happening inside my brain to sort of pushing it out of it and letting it sort of just exist in the real world in some capacity, be it for myself or be it for someone who might get something from it. But I just think that it's just always been a necessity for me to make things. Try to make something genuine,
The rest of the time, I'm just, time, frankly, I'm just bumming around doing absolutely inconsequential shit. But when you're on stage, when I'm on stage, it feels like I'm certainly the only person who can be me. Put it that way.
Because I have to. Yeah, it's what I do.
It's the only thing that makes me happy that I've noticed.
Because I don't know any better. Because I just feel, I don't know, man. It's pretty simple for me. It all makes sense when you're playing the stuff live. Even me going as a guitar player now in the band to the UK for our tour we did in December, was kind of a big deal because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of bass music guitarists and bands that I'm like, damn, this is where it's from. It happened here. So playing guitar there to me was kind of a big deal or something. I don't know. I usually don't care about too much, but I thought it was exciting, to play in whether a certain country or town where some things that I might be doing or influenced or inspired by, whether I knew it in the moment or after it was all done and it all kind of came together, just being there, it's like, damn, this is a place where like that kind of came from, So there's always something to heighten the feeling just a little bit more, and it keeps you coming back.
So I guess the last question I'd have for you, and you've somewhat answered it just with the last bit of the conversation, but why do you do what you do? And why do you do what you do? And which is just why do you do what you do? And you can answer it any way you like, but why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Which is why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? It's just why do you do what you do? 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 Why do you do what you do, Mike? Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? But I always ask people why they do what they do. Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? With the last bit of the conversation, but why do you do what you do? Yeah. Man, I always ask everybody this is why do you do what you why do you do what you do?